Good evening. This is the Dania Beach City Commission regular meeting. It is Tuesday, June 25th, 2019, and it is 7 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
City Manager Garcia.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Please rise with me to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And can we please pause for a moment of silence? Thank you. Next up is presentations and special event approvals. First thing is City Manager commendation to public service employees Willie Spencer, Carl Kalakaran, Antoine Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, city residents, city staff that are here with us tonight. So I try as I go through my day to observe the team in-house, out and about.
Oh my God.
And today I want to recognize three very special people who have really stepped it up. Public Services has been a department that has lost several key players. But I've always believed when some players go down, be it for injury or for any type of incident, it gives others the opportunities to rise to the occasion. We have three of those individuals here tonight. One of them I didn't even recognize. But I want to talk about him briefly, but independently. So, Willie, every day I see you. Come on up. Every day I see you. And every day I see your smile. Every day I see something that's spilled, something that's dirty, something that's not clean, and you make it better. But I was watching you in preparation of our Hurricane Expo, before, during, and after, and all the setup and all the breakdown. Each and every day what you contribute to the city is priceless. But more than anything, priceless is your attitude and how you go above and beyond every single day. And we are very, very fortunate to have you. So I want to make sure that we give you the certificate of commendation that will go in your official file to let you know how much we appreciate you, Willie.
Thank you very much.
We can have the mayor and commission come down and take a picture with Willie, please. Yes, we'll take all the
I don't get paid for walking up and down 10 times.
That's a very good idea.
Because otherwise we're going to be
Yeah, yeah, up and down. I mean, it'll burn a couple of calories. Thank you. The next individual that I want to bring up, we call him Cali because his name is kind of like a complicated order. So basically, several months ago, when we lost our public services director, then our then acting director, we had to find someone in the team. And I had been observing, like I always do. And there was one of these individuals, again, has a certain level of integrity that is really hard to match. And for me, that's priceless. But more than anything, such a can-do type of attitude. I've always loved the type of people that can get us to yes. And Cali is those type of individuals. I will bring something to the attention of Cali. Cali, this is a dead plant. 5 minutes later, there was a new plan. Cali, this, and that is the type of individual that I welcome on the team, and the type of individual that continues to go above and beyond for the city each and every day, and the type of individual that, because of him, our city is safer and more beautiful each and every day. So with that, Cali, can you come up and please receive this commendation? last and certainly not least is behind every team, there's always that person behind the scenes, and that is that administrator, that person that gets the phone calls, that person that puts the memos together, that person that is working on the budget, the person that balances everything that's happening in the field, that it's happening back in the office. And Antoine is someone from day one that I found to be extremely, extremely dependable. She has such a level of pride in everything that she does, and there's nothing that I send her way that she doesn't get accomplished. And again, Antoine, without you, we couldn't have made it happen. You're a tremendous team player and a tremendous person that's very much unselfish and about the team. So with that, Antoine Johnson, AJ, can you come up and get this commendation?
All right, next is update on Breast Cancer Awareness Month event. Bobby H. Grace.
Bobby Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue in the great city of Dania Beach, Florida. One thing I did observe is I got to have those shoes. Antoine, I got to have the shoes. She's got to bring the shoes to me. I'm a fashion person, and I just need those. First of all, I want to thank the residents of the city of Dania Beach for your well wishes this year, and also this week for the loss of my brother-in-law, John Grace, who passed away. So we're going to have the services on this Saturday at 9 a.m. at St. Ruth Missionary Baptist Church. And I want to thank, I was just absolutely shocked to see all of the employees and all of the residents come by and all the phone calls and the cards. So I know that you love the family, and of course, we love you too. But I want to talk a little bit about something that's dear to my heart. Last year, I did not do breast cancer awareness, and you know I have been doing it since 2010, and we did it in the atrium at City Hall. But I ran into some problems myself, health-wise, and we didn't have a chance to put it together. Over the years, from 2007 to now, we've raised over $400,000 in the city of Dania Beach for breast cancer awareness. And basically, we asked them to make sure that the residents of Dania Beach are taken care of. We have over 400 breast cancer survivors in the city of Dania Beach. So this year, we partnered with the Dania Beach Casino. The event is going to be scheduled for October 13th in the 954 room. And we're asking the city for two things. We're asking for you to be a sponsor, especially with the logo. And we're also asking you, because last year we did not have breast cancer awareness, we're asking you for a sponsorship of $5,000. We're also asking that everybody in the city of Virginia Beach, surrounding areas, please come out and support this event on October 13th and wear your pink. This is something that I am very saddened by because we're losing a lot of young people in their 20s and 30s that are dying of breast cancer because the thing is they tell them to wait until they're 40 years old before they have the breast cancer screenings. You cannot wait anymore. You have to do that, especially when you're not feeling good, you feel a lump, or you go to your doctors and something is not normal. So we're asking that we try and educate and have some forums, especially probably with the city in conjunction with Memorial Hospital, educating people how important it is that you have the breast cancer mammograms. That is my update, and I want to say this. I am really thankful that some of my fellow commissioners have stepped up to the plate, and they're going to support and help me with this event. Thank you, Chicky. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Lauren. You guys are awesome, and I'm hoping that the other two will come aboard along with everybody else, and we'll get this done. If we fight together, we can eradicate this horrible disease called cancer. Thank you so much.
Do we talk about it now? Why not?
Next up is the 2019 Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan. Battalion Chief Sean Brown, BSO Fire Prevention Bureau.
Good evening to all members of the dais. Sean Brown with Broward Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue. It is that time of year once again. We'll get the slide presentation underway in just a moment. The 2019 Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, I believe you all should have copies of. By resolution that was adopted, I believe back in 2004, the City Commission is required to approve that plan each and every year. The presentation that I've done now is quite a bit different than the presentations of the past. It's kind of geared more towards the actual plan itself and the contents and what's actually in those plans, as well as some reminders about the hurricane season as well. But it's not so much geared towards actual citizen preparedness, but it's more geared towards what's in the overall plan. So just a reminder, we are in hurricane season now. It began June 1st and it goes through November 30th. The most busy times you typically are between August, mid-August, September, and October. But it does not end until the 30th, so we need to just kind of keep that in mind. So before you, as I stated, is the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, or the CEMP, for 2019. And we're going to go through a brief overview of what's in there. This is an all-hazards approach to disaster mitigation, to planning, response, and recovery. That being said, our number one key disaster that we typically deal with here are hurricanes, or the propensity for them, for the disaster type is hurricanes. So a lot of the plan is geared specifically towards that. However, it can be used in all types of hazards. So basically, this Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan establishes policies and procedures for your department heads, fire rescue, law enforcement, and all other positions during a disaster. It also establishes roles and responsibilities for each department of pre-storm, mid-storm, and post-storm activities. It also establishes policies and procedures for the cessation of normal governmental activities, such as when normal city operations cease and when the actual city closes or reopens, etc. It also establishes all of your policies and procedures for emergency organization, response, and recovery as well. It also covers your Emergency Operations Center and its operations. It covers the staffing, the positions, and the assignments, and any of the activities that will typically take place in an EOC. Currently, the EOC is located here in City Hall on the second floor. And the plan goes into detail quite a bit about what's entailed with Emergency Operations Center. And finally, it provides community and public information, has contact lists. Now, this plan it's kind of protected for the governmental persons involved here at the city. It's not really for public distribution. It does contain contact lists and personal numbers of pretty much all personnel in the city in the event somebody has to be located and contacted. It has also general public contact lists. It has preparedness information, general hurricane preparedness information for staff as well as for city residents. It contains evacuation and relocation information, hurricane shelter information specifically, your hospital locations throughout. Well, closest I should say to the city, as well as public services information and other resource materials. I'm just going to give you a couple quick useful links that prove very, very resourceful. The first one is the Broward County Hurricane Preparedness information. You can either go to the website that's listed there, emergency.broward.org, or you can actually Google Broward County Hurricane, and it'll be the first option that shows up in the Google search. But as you can see up there, I hope it's not too hard to read. Those are some of the links that you can actually click on. There's a survey, that's the Community Preparedness Survey. If you wish to be alerted with Broward County, there's an alert system that you can sign up for. You can receive alerts by text. If you want a list of businesses that have generators within the city, you can look up any city really through that link. If you're looking to volunteer for pre or post hurricane events for your citizens, they can go there as well. There's even a site on there that allows you to be able to report home damage, and it gives you examples of what the different types of damages are and how you would rate your own home. It also has extensive information about shelters, and it goes through residents at risk, which I'll go through in just a second, dealing with the vulnerable population. This is just kind of a snapshot of some of the other things that are on the website. Your vulnerable population registry is something that you need to pre-register for. You can get that by calling 311, or you can go online at the website that was just on the previous slide. It's for residents really that want to stay home during the storm. They're not looking to go to any kind of a shelter. They're usually at risk due to a disability, frailty, or health issues. It's not a guarantee of assistance. It basically just helps us as the EMS providers know that, hey, this person is staying in home for the storm, and it's really helpful for us on the EMS side for post-storm recovery efforts to go check on them and make sure they're okay. Your Broward County shelters, there's still 33 of them throughout Broward. The closest one to Dania is still Watkins Elementary. There are 3 pet-friendly shelters, but they're primarily for those who are in the actual evacuation area. Transportation to the shelters is provided when there's a hurricane watch and a hurricane warning. The Broward County Transit System stops all normal bus routes and then switches to the evacuation and shelter transportations. Just a reminder for the pet shelters, you're going to need to have copies of your proof of residency in the evacuation zone, proof of rabies vaccination, name, address, phone number of your veterinarian, and a photo of each pet that you plan on bringing. All right, the other useful link is our own here in the city of Dania Beach at daniabeachfl.gov/ready. I just took kind of a little snippet of the website that's up here. On there, there's also helpful links to everything that the city has to offer in terms of preparedness information, different like access to FP&L services. There's a whole host of information on there. I would encourage any and all to go to Dania Ready. You can also go to, I believe it's Dania Ready in the Google search engine, and that will also bring up the very first search link is our website. Now, we do have here in the city, we have Code Red, which is our notification service that we provide to our citizens and also our employees and to city staff. It's used to send emergency notifications by phone, email, text, and social media. It provides evacuation notices, utility outages, water main breaks, etc. Just know that any personal information is kept confidential, and you can register at daniabeachfl.gov/code red. I don't know what happened here. Am I going backwards? I'm going backwards. That's the problem. My apologies for that. Your evacuation routes, just make sure that you're aware of your evacuation routes. They've not changed. For your typical Category 1 and 2, any areas east of the Intercoastal Waterway are those typically that are evacuated. And if, in the event there's a larger storm than that, it's all the areas east of Federal Highway are evacuated. Just a few important hurricane contact numbers. I'm not going to go through them. And then that's all that I have as far as the actual plan itself and a couple little reminders for the hurricane season.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Our EOC, hadn't we talked about moving it elsewhere? I thought it was at the Morrison now.
It will
or was
be.
did I make that up in my head?
Yes, actually, we didn't have it in writing, and last week Commissioner Harris and our Assistant City Manager went and met with the folks in the Morrison to be able to get that the agreement in place. This place, we don't believe will sustain a Category 1, and as a matter of fact, I was told that during last Hurricane Irene that this place was compromised.
Right. So did we sign that deal? Is that a done deal?
We have an agreement in
Okay.
place.
So our EOC is now Morrison.
That's correct.
Okay, great.
Okay, I can actually, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Good.
I can actually update the plan to include that, because prior to, the last I had heard, I knew that we were in talks and stuff like that, but I didn't know that anything had been finalized, so.
Understood.
I can update that.
And then I don't know if this would be you or for the city manager, but I think you had emailed us about how the Red Cross is no longer staffing the shelters, and we were working on something with that. I mean, I know the Broward League has been talking about that for a while, and it's not a new problem. But do we have anything that we're doing for that yet?
Real quick, to go back to the agreement on the Morrison, the attorney tells me that he has it on his desk and it will be signed this week. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Okay.
We had a meeting last week with the superintendent of schools and Bertha Henry, the county administrator, and all the city managers representing the 31 municipalities were there. We were told that some of the shelters do not have staffing at this time. I volunteered to be part of a group that's going to be meeting within the next 2 weeks to find some solutions. I've also put out some phone calls, and I have a conference call tomorrow with the counterpart in Miami-Dade County to see how we can help. What I would like to present is we may have residents that could be receiving this training to be able to work in one of the shelters. FEMA, we would have to pay out of pocket, and then FEMA would reimburse. So that would be the plan, working with the county and with the school board, that we would bring forward to our commission.
If I recall from reading the information, I mean, they also talked about, like if city staff wanted to work, and then the process, you have to get fingerprinted.
Correct. So
Joe, if you want to go work. All right, well,
Right,
whatever.
Right. So
But whoever's interested, the library staff, there was different staff members they talked about that may be appropriate, that may be interested.
Absolutely, Vice Mayor. So we would be recommending appropriate staff that's not part of our emergency response, because we'll have our own team. And that's what a lot of the cities were saying, that we have to take care of our own here first.
Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner James?
Oh, what happened?
Yes, thank you. Vice Mayor took two of my points I think we all were thinking about on here. My last one was wondering, what does our schools have to go through to be able to be a shelter? The closest is 6 miles away. I understand that we are very close east, but I look at the map and I see like a bunch of them jumbled up in Pembroke Pines, and that's kind of far. And you know, when you're reaching the status of trying to find a shelter, they're booked and busy, and it's very hard to find these shelters. So what can be done with the new fire chief that's going to come? Is that on a list of priorities, maybe not in Dania Beach, but to bring a shelter that is closer that our residents can access?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you, I don't know the exact prescribed requirements for the shelters. I know that they've got to be structurally sound. I believe they have to be a certain size, but other than that, I don't know. I can have the new district chief certainly put that on the very top of his priority list.
I just want to know, if there's opportunities for schools that are closer to become a shelter, maybe not a school in Dania Beach, because all of ours are, you know, very close to the flood line. However, outside of Dania Beach that are closer, like Hollywood or Davie or whatever, if we can have more shelters there that our residents can access, because they might not have the resources and the abilities to be able to get to those further shelters.
I will begin the research on that, and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner James, I think the city manager might have some further information about that, too.
I noticed the same thing, Commissioner James, that you did, that all the shelters are so far away from us. An opportunity that we may have as we move forward with our Parks Master Plan, be it at C.W. Thomas or at Frost, if we were able to put some sort of gymnasium there, or a new facility or a new park, we would make sure that that facility would be, you know, hurricane strong and
It's
hurricane
too far
resilient.
east, though. I think it'll be too far. Yeah, it's in the evacuation zone, especially Frost Park being east of Federal Highway. I don't think they would ever go for that. And C.W. Thomas Park isn't like too much further from Federal Highway. So that's why I was saying, I know our schools are like in the proximity of being in an evacuation, a possible evacuation zone being all east of 95. And some of them being east of Federal Highway, but if they were closer in proximity, I think that will help us as well.
Commissioner Harris?
No, when we met with the EOC, with the Morrison, we also talked about having the building wired for our telecommunications, and also we included, I think, 10 sleeping rooms in the event that, the EOC is up for more than just a couple of days, that we'll have to have some sleeping rooms there too. And the other thing that we need to consider is that in the event that, the schools are closed and the schools reopen, that we're going to have to shelter some of the people that were in the shelters here in probably our community centers. So that's part of the plan for the future, is to make our community centers hardened buildings for when the evacuation is lifted, and we'll have to bring our people back closer to our city because they're all so far away, and we'll need to house them in the community center. So since the county's not going to provide any staffing, we're going to have to provide staff for that as well. Something to consider.
Commissioner Brandon
Same story, different year. I have gone through this for 7 years. Every time the fire department was in front of us, I would say the same thing. There's not one person in this audience that has a place to go. We have mobile parks that have hundreds of mobile homes in them. They're considered mandatory. I would like to know just how many residents this encompasses from the east side of Federal Highway. And as far as putting one down the beach, that is mandatory evacuation. You cannot go down there and expect people to ride towards the storm. They want to get the heck out of the way. Also, I've asked why I have to go to Miramar. I don't like it, so I'll end up staying in a building that has no elevator and have the city manager at that time, which he did, baskets with water in for everyone in that building, lowered with a rope and then brought back up again. You really aren't prepared. We're prepared for the storm to tell them how to take care of themselves. It's awful nice of the EOC to have everything up to date and all, but these people still have nowhere to go. They just don't. We need a hurricane shelter. We don't need one in which to bus them here and send them back to a livable house that probably ain't going to have electric for 8 weeks if it was a major storm like we did already see in the Meadowbrooks. None of us had electric, none at all. The mobile home parks, where are all those people going to go? They've got nowhere to go. And our schools, you asked the question, Commissioner James, a good one too. When I brought that up as to why our school wasn't strong enough for a storm, that was the answer. They're not. That's why the kids are out of there too. They cannot, and it's the Red Cross, I think, that deems it whether or not it's safe enough to be called a hurricane shelter, and another organization that I don't recall at this time. But you're right, what you said. They got to pass very strict certification to be called a hurricane shelter. Why? Because they're ensuring you're going to live through it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in there. So really, we should think about one shelter. And you know, the point, I'm going to address this to you and to Mr. Shapiro. The Avery Apartments, they're going to be hurricane proof, am I right? So we're going from 30,000 people, 35,000, and then maybe 40,000, and we still got the same problem. I think we ought to think about fixing this. But I understood that the newer buildings, right, Mark, are hurricane safe. So at least we don't have to worry about those people, except the ones on the top floor. They get the highest windstorms. Am I right on that?
Yes.
They get the highest. I know, because I'm on the 6th floor that blew out my balcony, and I held it up with an ironing cord. I really did. Why? Because you couldn't get anybody to come over to Meadowbrook to help you. There was no balcony. I opened the sliders, and I would have stepped off onto the ground 6 floors down. The balcony was gone. So I'm just telling you, we haven't solved any problems at all, and I don't even feel we're looking in the right place, especially not the beach. But this will be addressed again next year because I'll still be seated.
Okay.
And then the following year, I'm sure somebody else will address it, really.
Yeah, for now.
They got
there-
nowhere.
Yes, that's correct. Other than the 33 shelters, and again,
What
They may not-
33? Well,
they may not
excuse me,
be-
sir, but to get
they
to
may not
those
be staffed.
33 shelters, they better have transportation.
Correct.
And they ain't got it. The mobile homes, they haven't got it. They don't have any safe place. Let's take care of our people first and worry about everybody else second.
yes,
Thank you.
no problem. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you did good.
Next item is special event request from Attucks High School Alumni Association for the Attucks High School All-School Reunion Parade to be held on July 20, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Are there any issues?
Rafael, you want to bring him
Sure.
an
I'll give you
update?
guys an
Move
update.
that.
Rafael Acosta, Recreation Manager, Frost Park. I'm here on behalf of Eric Brown, who's out of office right now. Commission Deus, everybody. Hope everybody's well. So this is on behalf of Mr. MacArthur Brown of Attucks High School Alumni Association. Like you said, it's going to be Saturday, July 20th, 2019, from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. The event will begin at 1050 Northwest 2nd Street in Dania Beach and conclude at C.W. Thomas Park. This will be the 8th annual Attucks High School Alumni Reunion Parade. They've had this every year, this parade. The special events application fee has been paid and did pass all approvals from all departments.
Move the item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Anyone opposed? No. Come on up.
First of all, Bobby Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue, Dania Beach. I am on the board of the Alumni Association. I really want to thank you for that. But beyond that, they're asking the city of Dania Beach if you can, or if you would like to participate in the parade for that event. Please let us know so we can have a car for you. We would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, there are no proclamations tonight. Citizen comments. Michael Sarton. Please come up and state your name and address, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Michael Sarton, 746 Southwest 3rd Street in Dania Beach. You have a new microphone.
You have a nice voice.
Since the last time you spoke, yes.
I'm not sure I need it. Broward County is terribly balkanized. There was apparently an event some 2 decades ago in the parking lot of the Copa, the nightclub on Federal Highway, and 3 law enforcement agencies were responding. The Dania Beach City Police, to give you an idea of how long ago this happened, Fort Lauderdale Police, and the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Apparently, the municipal intersections all met in the Copa's parking lot. We find ourselves in the same situation with what I call the beach at Dania Beach, down where the pier and the ocean are, to make myself clear. There is a tiny bit of Hollywood that is in private hands just to the north of the beach at Dania Beach. And it has de facto probably going to be used commercially simply because of the available parking. And as you look at changes in land use at the beach, just be aware of that. If anybody sees the bottom of my pen, I dropped it. Thank you.
I did not understand a word you meant.
Okay. That is it? Okay. Bobby H. Grace? I don't know.
Bobby Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue in the city of Dania Beach. This is like the BET Awards. I keep coming up, you know. One thing I didn't do, and I want to do that now, I did not get a consensus from the commission as to whether or not we could use the logo, because we need to start getting stuff out. And then I really would not be right if I did not acknowledge Craig for coming aboard and helping us with the Dania Casino, having those people come aboard to give us the space there. And I just want him to know how much I appreciate it, because this is going to help a lot of people that have cancer. So I need something so that we can move forward. Everything else that we have is in place. We just don't have something from you saying that we can use the city logo. And
Well, does anybody have an objection? Do we have consensus?
I think that
Go ahead, Commissioner Brenneman.
Raquel should be involved.
Well, if it's the
I don't-
logo,
I don't
know if it's
think
the
so.
logo.
I was told we just need to have a motion, basically, or consensus.
But if it, I know what we've always done, like even allowing them to use the logo, anything that a logo is going on needs to have approval, so I can have the correct spacing, and there are
Right.
certain requirements that came with using that logo that I think that some of staff, I know Raquel for sure has it because she's been in charge of it, that we're making sure that we are following the right
Exactly.
requirements.
That's
So
why-
that
that's
might
why I
be why
came
she
Right.
said that, but when we're using it, regardless if it's going on construction, fencing, or whatever, it still has to have approval
Right,
from
from
us.
you.
So
Well, does anybody want to make a motion, or?
I'll make the motion that we allow an approved logo or an approved design to be used for the breast cancer awareness event pending approval from CRA staff.
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Harris, did you have something else?
No, I was going to second it.
Okay.
Oh,
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
thank you so much.
and one thing,
Bobby,
Bobby,
come
one more
back,
thing.
please. Come back, please.
I
Can,
asked.
as far as you asked for sponsorships, because you and I worked so well together back in for the 110 event, let's put together a sponsorship package.
Okay.
And like we did before, you do the legwork and I'll go collect the checks
I
and
knew that was coming.
we'll, or, you know how we do it.
No, I'll be delighted, and as long as I'm here, I know probably in my 3 minutes. This is the city's 115th birthday, and I'm hoping that this commission will take the lead like we did for the 110 and do something spectacular, not only for the city, but for the residents. We just buried a pioneer in here on yesterday, May Adams, 101 years old, and I would just like to keep this trend together, let them know that although we're the first city, we won't be the last.
You'll be happy to know,
Excuse me.
Ms. Grace, that I actually brought this up at the last commission meeting, and it's on my agenda tonight.
Let's move it. It only took us 6 months? 9 months.
We'll do it faster.
Okay, let's do it.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
But I don't think that we really addressed what she was asking. She's asking for the commission to step up and help support the cancer movement that she's doing with a $5,000 donation. And I think that she deserves an answer. We did the same thing last month for the library, when they also said that they had a situation, and we approved the $1,500 for them. So I'd like a little bit of discussion on as whether or not we can do this or not.
Can discuss it.
Do we have the money?
Yeah, that's, I think we need to look at that, and
Can I-
I mean, we do have some discussions coming up with budget, and this comes up as part of, right around the end of the fiscal year, so it might be better discussed maybe at the next meeting, or when we start discussing budgets more.
You're right in the middle of discussion of your new budget that's coming
Yeah.
aboard. It has to be approved by September the 18th. I don't think it will be out of the norm for you to make a commitment at this point.
I would, if it's within right, I would like to make a motion that we support the cancer thing by approving the donation to the Cancer Society and Commissioner Grace, Ms. Grace.
I'll second it.
But you
Go ahead,
didn't
Vice
answer.
Mayor.
Didn't we ask
Yeah.
if there was
If
there
we
was
had the money,
if we have
right,
the mon- do we have
right.
the money
Answer
in?
was yes.
There was no answer.
I thought the
Go
answer
ahead,
was
city
yes.
manager.
I can find it.
She'll find
Okay, she can find it. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, city manager.
Okay.
She always comes through.
it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
She's the only one that always comes through.
Okay, sorry, we do have another one, late addition. Emmanuel George.
Hello, how you doing? I just got in from work.
Name and address, please.
Emmanuel George, 17 Northeast 2nd Avenue. Just to start the day, I just came to speak about something that is really passionate to me. Many of you may have heard me speak about this several times, but I'm really pushing and advocating for what will be called the J.A. Ely Historical Society, a historical society to honor J.A. Ely, who was not only the first black principal in Broward County, but he was also the first black probation officer, and he was the first African American to serve on an all-white jury duty. And the J.A. Ely Historical Society would be something to give millennials like myself and Generation Z forward, with people who came after me, to know more about him, because we have a boulevard in this city named after him, and many people my age and younger do not even know who he is or what he even looks like. So it'll just be a way to honor him through history, and this area can have artifacts and archive pictures of old Dania Beach from the west side of the train tracks, as well as its sibling community, which is the northwest quadrant of Hollywood, the Liberia area. And with J.A. Ely being the principal of Addix, when it was a high school, this would also serve as well as, since Addix was the epicenter for South Broward, being people from Hallandale, Carver Ranches, even certain parts of Davie, as well as this city in Hollywood, who were African American descent or of Afro-Bahamian descent, they were going to this school. And this would serve as the epicenter of a historical society for South Broward, for people of color. Because when you go to Pompano, they have a historical society, but they also have the Blanche Ely House, which is on the west side of the train tracks. They also have the Ally Cultural Center, named after Florence Ally, which was preserved by Hazel Ambrister from Pompano. When you go to Fort Lauderdale, you have the Stranahan House and you have the Bonnet House, but then you also have Old Dillard Museum. When you go to South Broward, we don't really have anything that honors the African American history of the area. And I think that with the budget meeting coming up, I think this is something that could be discussed. So we can have a historical society. It will create employment. It would also can be a place like how Old Dillard is, where there's art galleries and where it could be places for events as well as classes. So it could be whether it's coding or STEM or these different things that could come in to help out the community and educate the community, as well as just preserving the history, because a lot of elders are leaving us. They're going away. They're transcending onto whether one wants to believe in heaven, but they're leaving us, and I think it'll be something great and helpful just to preserve history of an area that's oftentimes forgotten about. Because again, when you go to J.A. Ely Boulevard, there's nothing that's honoring of J.A. Ely. But when you go on Blanche Ely Avenue in Pompano, there's the Ely House. There's the Ely High School. When you go down Sistrunk Boulevard, you have Eula Johnson's house. You have the African American Research Library. You have the Provident Park, which is where the hospital was, where James Sistrunk was delivering 5,000 black babies. So I think that, not saying I think, I feel as if this is something that's very, would be very helpful, and it will definitely be a way just to bring people, black, white, red, yellow, whatever color you are, I think, this would be something that would definitely serve as a great catalyst to the area, because, yeah, that's it.
Commissioner Brandon
A sort of like opportunity, I want to call it, because of a sad occasion. It just crossed my mind and came up, and Commissioner Bill is going to discuss it with our city manager, mostly because I'm leaving town, but I think we may have come up with exactly what you've been coming up here for more than a year fighting for, and there's even artifacts in it. And I really am asking you, city manager, that Bill will be meeting with you on this, because I think this is a golden opportunity to look into, even though you say like the west side of the tracks, it couldn't be any closer, could it, Bill? No, I think you would be very happy with it, and so would I. And like I told you, don't give up on this. Don't give up on us.
Definitely. I mean, I've just been working a lot, so that's why I haven't really been here as much lately.
I know,
And I
I saw
apologize
you,
about that.
yeah.
And also, I just wanted to say, again, this is not a black or white thing.
No.
This is just a history thing. And, I think there should be history just for all sides of Dania Beach, whether you're black, whether you're white, we just want just proper representation. And I think everyone deserves proper representation, whether you're black, white, gay, or straight, wherever,
Vice Mayor?
Thank you.
Emmanuel, I know you and I have talked about this. Being in the baby stages of starting to put together our Dania Beach Historical Society and all the work that's starting to go into making that happen. So I've done what I've could to sort of take what I know is important to you and many of the other residents, and I'm going to try and make sure that we represent all parts of the city's history properly and honor all of the foundational people in the city properly. So if that project doesn't end up looking like what you want it to look like in terms of what the vision was, you sent me something that was really well written. I hope you'll still be a part of it, because you are such a tremendous well of knowledge when it comes to Black and African American history in this city, and I would just be gutted if you weren't a part of it. So I hope you will give me a little bit of your energy and a little bit of your time to help with that and your 91 other projects you are always working on. But I think we can both agree that starting to seriously preserve the history of the city is so important, and not just doing these little things, but in a really meaningful way, preserving these artifacts, preserving the stories of the elders in the city as they move on to their their unearthly place, that we preserve all that and we keep all of that and we have all that so we can honor it for the generations to come. So I hope you'll be a part of it, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public safety reports? Go ahead, Commissioner Harris.
I just got a text from someone that says the online feed is not working. They have no sound. Can you check on that, please?
What else?
Okay, they just texted me, said online streaming of the meeting is pretty bad. And now it's offline. So, sorry. Thank you, Joe.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
On June 12th, Detective Hoff, Detective Session, and Agriculture and Consumer Protection Specialist Anna Perez conducted an inspection of all the gas pumps in the city for credit card skimmers. An active Bluetooth skimmer was located inside of pump number 2 at the Chevron gas station on Federal Highway. A Bluetooth-enabled skimmer lets thieves retrieve stolen card and PIN data wirelessly while patrons pump gas into their vehicles. In reference to the complaint about Dania Cove Park from last meeting, we conducted a CPTED, which is Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design assessment at the park. The complaints were people sleeping in the park at night, illegal drug activity, and constant traffic in the park at night when the park should be closed. Over the last 2 weeks, we've conducted 21 area checks and foot patrols at various hours, and no criminal activity, homeless, or suspicious persons have been located. I'll have copies of that report tomorrow if anybody's interested in viewing it. Thursday, June 27th, we're taking a group of teens for a tour of the main jail. The jail tour basically shows troubled youth where poor choices can lead and to deter them from future criminal behavior. The guided tours through the facilities allow youth to observe firsthand what the jail environment can be like. The inmates will talk to the youth about the wrong choices they have made and the crimes they committed that led to their incarceration. They'll also speak about how painful and dangerous it can be to live in jail. That completes my report.
Commissioner Harris?
Danny, you want to talk about the girl gang that we had going on over in the southeast and what they did and how you were able to apprehend them?
We were able to apprehend them because people have Ring cameras now, and they communicate with law enforcement and give us this information instead of holding it for long periods of time. They feed it to us, and it was we had a carjacking with 4 females that carjacked an Uber driver, and we got into a little pursuit with them, located them, took them into custody, and then I get Ring footage later that morning. They matched the description. They were breaking into cars before they decided to get the Uber driver. So keep up the good work, everybody out there, because give us the videos.
Because I think that was, excuse me, Mayor, but to the chief, it was great police work, because I think we had the description of the females on 4 different cameras, and I was sending it to you, and you were sending it to the officers, and by that time they had already hijacked Uber driver, and they were apprehended. Is there any kind of follow-up with them as far as what the case is?
It's still ongoing at this time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Good evening to all again. Sean Brown with Broward Sheriff's Office Fire Rescue. I don't have anything further to report. I did just kind of want to send a little reminder out there. I believe Inspector Brown was here and talked a little bit about Summer Sizzle Fire and Safety Camp for the kids. Is that correct? Okay. Just a reminder that that's coming up pretty quick. I believe it starts July, I want to say 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. The 16th, I think, is Monday. I think they're doing prep work then. It's on this website that I have here that it starts on the 16th. But the number to call for a little bit more information about it is 954-831-8236. And this event takes place again at Coral Springs Fire Academy. The address for that's 4180 Northwest 120th Ave in Coral Springs. It's a great time. It's an awesome, awesome experience for the kids. I think last year we had about 3,000 attendants. And I think this year the new thing that they're adding is they're actually inviting high school age kids to participate on the final day. And they'll be putting them through some of the tasks that we actually do in the fire service. So I'm not sure exactly what that entails yet. It may entail putting the bunker suits and air packs on them and, you know, having them shoot some water at something. I don't know. That's the rumor that I've heard. So just a reminder, and that's pretty much all that I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the consent agenda. Do we have any polls?
7.4.
7.7.
Wait, and then 7.6, I'm sorry, I need some clarification.
Anyone else? Do we have a
Move
motion?
move the consent agenda with the exception of,
7.4, 7.6, and 7.7?
that is correct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
7.4 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the proper city officials to execute an optional renewal of the existing agreement with CAP Government, Inc. for plan review, inspections, and clerical building code services retroactive to June 16, 2019, and valid through May 15, 2021, utilizing the City of Fort Lauderdale request for proposals RFP 575-11849 that will exceed an annual vendor total of $25,000. Each fiscal year, the contract is in place, authorizing such purchases to be made from the building fund approved annual budget appropriation, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Yes, through the mayor to the city attorney, did we speak to the original contract holder to see if it was unable for us to do the month-to-month, or is that just your recommendation?
That was my opinion based on looking at the request for proposals and the piggyback contract that we use from Fort Lauderdale. It doesn't admit of that kind of a continued kind of contract.
Okay.
So I wanted to stay within the ambit of what is lawfully authorized by the contract we're using.
Okay, so I have a couple of, I guess, recommendations. I guess the first one would be, we received notice of this contract expiring, I don't know if it was 11 days before it expired or 5 days. It was a crazy number to give the commission a chance to review any type of a contract that is expiring of this type of magnitude. This is something that is going to cost us, you know, regardless of any revenues, the services is over $1 million. And so I want to come back with a policy, which I will, that would mandate that we at least have a certain amount of months before a contract is renewed that we can discuss whether or not we're going to just go with the contract, and that will give us enough time in case we want to go out with an RFP. The second thing, could we move this instead of having it 2 years to 1 year?
That could be done.
That could be done. All right. And I want to put a date on when the RFP is going to come back for this item as well, because I don't want to do like other RFPs and just have it in the wind. I want a date on it. So I don't know what is reasonable, board, of a date to come back with an RFP. City Attorney, what do you think is reasonable?
As soon as you asked this question, I began drafting it, and I'm waiting on a scope of services. If it's the commission's intent to stick with partial inspection of services like we've been doing, which is, I suppose, what you wish to do, nothing different, that's the scope of services. Community development will write that, and I've already got a model begun to draft. So I anticipate having this back by your next meeting.
Okay, that will work for me. So is there other comments?
I just have a question for the city attorney. If we change it from 2 years to 1 year, is that going to impact the amount of time it's going to take to have it signed and agreed to and signed? No. I mean, are they? Do you know if they're going to be fine with that?
I'm going to have to ask Mr. LaFeria if they are committed to sign the renewed agreement.
The 1 year term?
If it's a 1 year term as opposed to 2 years?
Yeah, we've had a discussion.
Okay.
They'll be fine with that.
I just want to make sure it's not going to impact any other terms. That's.
No, it shouldn't.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to approve 7.4 with a one-year deal.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
5-0.
7.6, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into a piggyback agreement for real estate brokerage and lease management services with Colliers International, South Florida LLC, and the City of Dania Beach, Florida, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Again, through the mayor to the city manager this time. I'm definitely, I know I've been pleased with Collier's work and what they have done with us so far. I want to know when their contract is up with Fort Lauderdale, because I know they've been doing work with a long time. And in the piggyback agreement, I know that it has to be, a valid contract. So do you know when their contract is up?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had discussed it. I believe the gentleman's here from Colliers, and I know that you're working on the extension. Can you answer the commissioner's question?
Ken Krasnow with Colliers. It technically expires August 15th or something, 31st. August 31st.
Thanks, Brooke.
But the renewal is being, as we speak.
So you're confident that you're going to get a renewal for Fort
Absolutely.
Lauderdale? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm making a motion to approve 7.6.
I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
5-0.
7.7, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 17, Offenses Miscellaneous of the City Code of Ordinances by repealing Article 4 noise and replacing it with a new Article 4 noise to provide terminology, prohibit certain noises, exempt certain noises, limit the unreasonable and excessive levels of noises and plainly audible noises in certain circumstances, and provide for temporary noise permits, providing enforcement standards, penalties, and remedies, providing for severability, further providing for an effective date. It's the first reading of this ordinance.
Mark, can I have a couple questions about this this noise ordinance?
Sure.
Thank you for putting it for helping get it together in time. So some of the concerns were two different elements. The 100 feet. So if between houses you have less than that, you have, sometimes 25 feet, in certain instances even less than that. So, is that going to be too large? Can we take it down a little bit? How's that going to work?
Actually, there's two, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You got it? Sorry about that. Mark LaFerrier, Community Development. There's actually two standards built into the ordinance. Some of them say that it's a disturbance of the peace and has a description of the type of activity that would be prohibited. Then also there are other standards that identify the plainly audible within 100 feet. So if someone's disturbing the peace, meaning that there's concern by the neighbors, and there's also hours of operation for certain activities too. So there's actually three different standards
Right.
that would apply for different types of activities.
So I think the main concern is the music. That's the one that I'm getting. So,
Yeah.
and I know we moved the whole way that we're talking about sound, whereas previously we were talking about specific decibel levels because we had the reader. Now we're going to more just definitions of the sound. So I guess we're really talking about what we're calling amplified sound. That's what would music be.
Yeah.
So for amplified sound, if the house directly next to you is playing loud music with significant amounts of bass in it, because that's really what you're feeling the most, and you're traveling the most, then how is that going to work?
That provision's on page 3, and
Okay.
it talks about disturbance of the peace, quiet, and the comfort of neighboring inhabitants. Then it also provides a time frame when there can be some music, but you still can't disturb the peace. That would be from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and then also there's a measurement for plainly audible. So I think the way that it would be applied is if there's someone that hears the music that's not a neighbor, that's not disturbing the peace, then the police or the code enforcement officer within 100 feet hears it plainly audible, then that would be another infraction. And if it's after 11 o'clock at night, then that would be another infraction.
We'll go to the time part in a minute, but if you're calling about your neighbor who's, it seems more reasonable to me for 30 feet, or the way we're building now, maybe 25 feet, you would need that to say 25 feet for it to be if it was your neighbor that was playing the music loudly.
That's if that was the only standard that you have. The other standard is disturbance of the peace. So if a police officer is there and he witnesses that it's disturbing the peace and the quiet enjoyment of the neighborhood, then that could be an infraction. If it's after 11 o'clock at night, then that would be another infraction.
But if that was your only one complaint and you were within 25 feet of each other, then you would have no leg to stand on, because they would say it has to be 100 feet. So it would have to be the dude who's 3 or 4 doors down from you.
No, because...
What am I missing? Make me understand it.
I'm sorry, because I'm not probably being very clear with my answers.
Can you be more
I'll try
clear,
it again.
please?
I'm sorry. There's 3 standards in that provision that I just
Yes,
referred
I
to.
see those. I
And there
understand
are
the
3
three.
standards that could be used. If there's disturbing the peace, which would be of the opinion of the officer that witnesses that the neighbors are disturbed by this loud music. Also that it's at times that aren't allowed. In this case, it would be after 11 p.m., for example. And the third one is that if you're within 100 feet and you can still hear it. So that's sort of the measurement, and not this. That's more of the measurement perspective of this provision of the code. But there's also the subjective of it's disturbing the quiet enjoyment of the neighborhood.
So in that scenario that I described to you, under the first one, where of disturbing the peace, that's where they would be able to get it'd be a violation.
Yeah, it's the police. Someone would call and say the music's too loud. It's before 11 p.m., for example. So
Yeah,
we don't
let's
have
say
that
it's
standard.
now 9 o'clock and they're
Yeah.
playing something.
The
But-
police show up, they witness that it's disturbing the peace, they tell them to quiet down. If they don't quiet down, then when they come back, then they issue the notice of violation.
And I know this is a trade-off now that we've gone from specific decibel levels to this. But because it's so subjective, it's 9 o'clock and I have Hamilton blasting from my living room, and I think that's a great time. But my neighbor right next to me, 25 feet away from me, is trying to put their baby down to sleep, or something like that.
Disturbing the peace.
And so they would still be able to call the police, and I could get written up as a violation.
And if it's another situation where, like, let's use it for an example, like it's a big party that's going on too, the officers can also ask them to shut it down and then require that it be shut down also. Based on disturbance of the peace.
It's a judgment call, correct?
Yeah.
Right. It's just going to have to be
Yeah. But this, believe it or not, this conversation we're having is better than the conversation that we would have had about it being measured with decibels and using a decibel meter and having that decibel meter certified and having a certified user of the decibel meter to bring that into
Right,
to
and
enforcement.
we've gone over, and Danny has explained to me before the challenges that come along with using the decibel reader. So I always, when we coming up with these ordinance, I look to our left and to our right at what our neighboring cities are doing, and it looks like Fort Lauderdale, at least in their ordinance I looked at, still use the decibel meter, and the Hollywood has these definitions. Theirs seemed a little bit more specific on the amplified. I'm just worried about
Okay.
this judgment call. Could we maybe have it be a little bit more specific,
Yeah.
especially in terms of the amplified noise?
Sure. It's important to note this is first reading, so these are all good comments.
Mhm.
And we'll take this back and we'll make revisions to it and we'll bring it back on second reading where we can hear more comments and hopefully get adoption.
The other question that I had was about the time. 11 o'clock seems a little bit late. It seemed like some of the other cities had 10 o'clock.
Okay.
It was.
Could we look at changing
Sure.
it to 10 o'clock?
Sure.
And, you know, it's also now what do you do about the daytime noise? I mean, you have people who are, you know, shift workers, you have, you know, people who for various reasons are sleeping during the day. Now what protections are they afforded other than, I guess, really, would it still be considered just if an officer is called out during the day for the music, is that still going to be considered something that's just like a disturbing the peace? Could that
Yeah.
still be a violation?
Yeah, it would be.
But then what if the person is making the argument, and I know that we could do this all night, but if I'm saying to you, but I'm just, what are you talking about? It's noon, of course I'm playing Hamilton. Like then,
Yeah.
how do they decide who's right?
Yeah, this is a tough part about writing this ordinance and implementing it. So it really relies an awful lot on the enforcement officers and the cooperation of the neighbors and everyone with a common goal for the enjoyment of the neighborhood.
Yeah, but that's not really a thing, you know. I mean, if we all just counted on our neighbors always doing the right thing, that we would never have any issues. Vacation rentals would never be a thing. Garbage thrown over our fence would never be a thing. So maybe if we could add some more specifics into there and flesh it out a little bit.
Sure.
A little bit more. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I think for during the day, I just wish there was something.
Well, we'll go back and look at it again.
Okay.
Remember when I came up here with the hours of construction activity? And we said that was the first half, this is the second half of the ordinance, and then we pledged that we get it on for tonight's agenda. I said it'll be a first reading, we'll have to take comments from the commission and come back. So these are all good comments. We'll come back with good recommendations for an amended
Since we
ordinance
have
for
a
second
month,
reading.
Can we make sure we get together and we look at it?
Of course.
Are you good? Commissioner James?
Yes. There's no way I think that it's remotely fair that I can have construction going on if I live in an apartment next to me at daytime hours, but a neighbor can be complained about playing loud music, and one could be sufficient and the other one not, and one could be reported and the other one allowed. So there's no consistency with that. There's definitely not any consistency when it comes out to leaving it at the discretion of whoever shows up. That will depend on whatever kind of day they are having. I honestly, that's just how it works. Like, it works that way with a lot of people. If someone's having a bad day, they can give you a citation or a violation versus asking you to turn your music down. I think this needs more work. And are you saying, wait? Oh, I don't know. And so, Mark, are you saying that if someone has a permit for a party, they can still be shut down if the neighbor says that they're disturbing the peace? I don't understand that.
Well, we wouldn't be giving permits for a private party.
People are allowed to get a permit to have a party on their property if it's more than a certain amount of people, no?
Well, there are special events that the commission approves.
Okay, so if it's an event that a commission approved and it's disturbing someone's peace, how do you enforce that if the music is too loud to the discretion?
Disturbing the peace. They got a permit to conduct the party, but they didn't get a permit to exceed the noise levels or to disturb the peace.
But you can definitely hear the music 25 feet from someone else. I don't like this. I'm sorry. I don't like how it is. I think that it's going to be a big disruption to people who are just living. I want to be able to protect people's peace, but if you live in an apartment that's not even 25 feet, then what happens there? We haven't addressed the condos, we haven't addressed apartments, we haven't addressed townhomes who don't have that 25-foot separation. So what happens there if the way things are being built here, you can hear the toilet flush in other apartments. So is that disturbing the peace? If you have your TV on and you know, it's the NBA finals, you can't have a watch party because it's going to be too loud for your neighbor next door. I don't know. I don't know. I think that a lot of it needs to be looked at for consistency, and especially if it's going to be more strict with decibel levels and amplified noise and all the other technology that the Vice Mayor was speaking about.
Candido?
Thank you. Candido Sosa Cruz, Assistant City Manager. The reason I came up because I wanted to add a little bit of a background to this ordinance. This is a very standard ordinance that many different counties in the state use, many different municipalities, and personally I have a lot of experience with this ordinance in the city of Miami Beach because of the noise, the how tight the quarters are, hotels, residential, commercial. The standard that is used, that has been upheld in court for this ordinance is the reasonable person standard. What would a reasonable person say or do? So one of the key things, regardless of time, regardless if it's 10, 11 p.m., regardless if you're watching a basketball game or you're having a barbecue in the back, is unreasonably loud, excessive, unnecessary, or unusual noise.
In whose eyes?
To a reasonable
Who's
person.
reasonable now? Like,
Again,
is it you? Is it me?
It could be a police officer, it could be a code compliance officer, it could be an officer that is called to the location. That is what the court has opined that could be upheld. A police officer, a code compliance officer, someone that is trained, that is an employee of the city, that is there for this purpose, to inspect the property and to determine if the noise is unreasonably loud, if it is excessive, and if it is unnecessary. So what does that mean? That means if you're watching a sports game in the middle of the afternoon, that is normal, correct? That would be normal to most people. But if it's continuously screaming, possibly bottles breaking, horns, continuous for a long period, let's say 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, that would be then unusual. It would be
But
excessive.
that's not unusual for a sports game that's 2 hours long.
But again, it depends the location. For instance, I've had personal experience when I go to an apartment building, because it is so close to each other, that location, it would be considered excessive. It would be considered unreasonably loud. So what do? We knock on the door, we explain why we're there, we receive the complaint. If they can please lower their TV, their stereo, if it's a party that the neighbors are complaining. And again, normally, I would say 99% of the times, people understand.
Yeah. This is not Miami.
Because again, depending where you live, if you live in a community that the properties are acres, then it would be a different story for the same type of party. So it really depends the location, where you live, what is the noise, and the time. And then again, the officer will make the opinion, the determination, if it is excessive, unusual, and unnecessary. Now, when it comes to the 100 feet, that's typically after the 11 p.m. Depending the distance from the noise, regardless how far away, if it's over 100 feet, then automatically it's deemed too loud. That is the difference between unreasonably loud, if you live close to each other, you don't go by the 100 feet, and then if it's past 11 p.m., you go by the 100 feet. It's a very standard ordinance. The majority of the state uses this ordinance, and it works.
Did you have anything else?
I'm just not comfortable with it as is. So I understand it's unreasonable, but you don't get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the evening and at 2 o'clock in the morning complaining about it. And there are a lot of unreasonable, I guess you would call them as unreasonable if they're feeling like after 10 minutes of a sporting event that the noise is excessive, and I'm going to have to turn my TV down that is adjacent to my living room and someone else's bedroom, how apartments and stuff are made now, and it's going to be loud. So I don't know. And then after 11 o'clock, you go by the 100 feet. I would think after 11 o'clock you would use the shortest amount of distance because it would be at nighttime and it would be worse at that time.
You could use a shorter distance if it's extremely loud.
Okay, I'll just wait
Over
to see
100 feet, it doesn't have to be extremely loud.
I'll just wait to see what's brought back from our comments.
Commissioner Brandon.
Yeah, I think there's a law that says your home is your castle, and you can have peaceful enjoyment of it, and it works in a court of law. Take it from me. It works. I don't understand something, though, now. On this here, I would like to talk to you. Barbara from Code came out to Meadowbrook because Winn-Dixie's has on top of their roof, shaking their heads, gigantic fans. I mean, they have to have gigantic. Now they're going to probably reopen the store because if they're not, I want to know what the millions of pounds of food that's going in there is for on a daily basis, trucks going in and out with food. A neighbor, now this I only found out afterward, said to me, Barbara checked the decibels and the noise doesn't meet it. All right? The noise of those fans. Now, they're equal with our floor because we're on the 6th floor, as you know, Mark, right? And the fans are even with that. Will this law now, how would it affect the noise from those fans? Because the other floors don't hear a thing. Just the 6th floor hears these gigantic fans. How will this new way it's written affect those fans?
Again, every site is specific. We
That's
would
it.
have to go out there and hear it
what
for
I don't
ourselves.
like-
It depends. It depends how loud it is. It depends if it's all night long. It depends how far away from the apartment buildings. There are times where, again, the AC unit on top of a hotel has
Yeah.
been so loud that we've had to contact the hotel to do something to lower it because it's very loud throughout the whole night. So it really depends on the location and how loud the machine is.
Mr. Candide, I don't trust the people that make the decisions as to whether it's too loud or not, so I'm not even near this yet. I'm not. She may hate her, and she puts her radio loud. And I live in condos, and if you think that don't happen, you're mistaken. It happens. Or if the man next door has a hearing problem, but he don't want to wear a hearing aid, so he's got his TV up loud. I don't want to get in those ball games with my neighbors because there's going to be a war, and I intend to win it. So I'm just telling you right now, somebody got to go home and do more homework on this so that we can live with it. There are people in this audience that haven't even gotten up to speak on this that are so concerned about this issue that we're speaking about right now. There are 4 that I can see just on this side alone, and they came here and stopped me when I was coming in the hall to tell me that they were really concerned about it. But I'm telling you, if you rat on your neighbor, you're going to live a life of hell. And you will. And you could lose your best friend. I don't know about this. The 11 o'clock is already on the books. It's not 10 o'clock, Commissioner. It's 11 o'clock on the books. No, look at the thing. It's 11 o'clock. And yet I like what my fellow commissioner to my right said. She makes more sense than anything. But like I said, I can't abstain, but I'm telling you right now, I don't even want to touch this thing until somebody does their homework. And we have also a resident that would like to speak.
Okay, first of all, let me just make my comments, and we still have 2 more people that want to speak. Before I lived in a house, I lived in an apartment. Actually, I lived in a condo, and then before that, I lived in an apartment. And at one point, I had a neighbor who used to play the trumpet, and played the trumpet regularly, and it was very loud. And I could call the police. That was fine. We also had, you could call the landlord. as well and let the landlord know about it, and the landlord could address it as well. None of these ordinances are ever perfect. I do think this one needs some more work. I do think that we need to do some more fleshing out, as the Vice Mayor said. But I don't think we're ever going to make everybody happy with it, no matter what it is. And I don't think you make everybody happy with it in any city, in any state. There's always issues. There are people that live close to each other, people that don't live close to each other. There's always issues. And I've just, my own experience has been, I've seen it myself where I've had issues with a neighbor who was a problem. I have an issue with one of my neighbors right now who is very loud, and they always have cars out in front of the house, and they're, making noise all the time. And, if anybody were to call the police show up, they leave, and then as soon as the police are gone, they come right back. So it's the same. I mean, it's an attempt. I think we're trying to make an attempt here to do something, to put some sort of regulation in place. And again, I don't think any of them are going to be perfect, no matter what we put in here. But we need something. We clearly need something because there's a problem. We're all getting complaints about the noise issues. I get more complaints actually about the construction noises from people. I'd like to see a noise ordinance that keeps the airplanes quieter, but that's not going to happen. So, there's different things that we have to look at. I know this does have to be more specific, but I just want to give my own personal point of view on that because it happens everywhere. It is what it is. The city manager had a comment.
One of the things that I suggest is to get information from you all and from our residents in regards to when are these issues really coming up. The goal for police or for code is not to shut down a party, especially on a Friday night or on a Saturday night. The goal of this ordinance, we've been working with the Vice Mayor, is to make sure that the quality of life for our people here is upheld. So we're going back to the drawing board and tweaking it. It's standard, the 11 p.m. Usually police officers, if you get called before 11 p.m., they'll go. And the goal is, again, not to shut down a party, but to say, hey, can you lower the music slightly? But I think we need to get to the root of when is the time that this is really bothering people, the time of day, what types of noises, and come back and bring you something a little bit more solid.
Vice Mayor.
I was just going to finish it up by saying, Mark, I have a bunch of notes on this and a couple of ideas from what some other cities have done and a compilation of studies that was recently put out by the Acoustical Society of America, which was really interesting. So I think if we sat down for an hour and had a really, we chopped it up for a while, I bet we could come up with something good. Although, I do agree with the mayor. You're never going to come up with something that makes everybody happy, but we will get as close to being as comprehensive as possible and making as many people happy. And I think you'll be much happier on the next reading.
So, do we need to make any type of a motion here? Or?
It's a public. Anybody want to speak out there?
It's not really a public hearing, but there are a couple people who'd like to speak. You can come on up. Just please state your name and address for the record, and I am going to limit you to 3 minutes, please.
Bobby Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue, City of Dania Beach. As I'm accepting this award for my cousin for the BAT, let me tell you this. The ordinance does not fit the criteria that we're looking for, especially for our residents in the City of Dania Beach. It's not acceptable. I received the call last month from 13th Avenue. I live on Northwest 8th Avenue. Her sister had chemo the day prior to. The party was past 11 o'clock and going into 1:30. She said, what can I do? She said, this is not the first time that this has happened. I had to call the police last week. They come out and they tell them, lower the music. When the police leave, they turn it back up. Right. She said, and plus, I want to go to church tomorrow. She said, I'm going to be up all night. I go Dania Beach Boulevard. I live on 8th Avenue, back in the cul-de-sac back there. They've got loud music going on. I get a phone call. My husband said, well, what's going on? I thought you were retired. And I said, but you never get retired from doing the right thing for your community. I said, if they don't know anybody else to call besides myself and Tamara, they're going to call. And then I'm going to call, and Danny will tell you, I'm going to call or I'm going to text. Not acceptable. Somebody needs to get out here now and shut that music down. It is just too loud. And I go to the door because I just don't want to really take her word for it, even though I know she's telling me the truth. I open the door, and I'm telling you, it's surprising that my chandelier don't fall, okay? Because once you open the door, you can hear it. We have been dealing with this for such a long time in Dania Beach. I remember when I got the phone calls from about Flossie's Bar, across the waterway, that you can hear it. And people, this lady cussed me out so bad one night, I couldn't even remember some of the words that she said, and some of them I didn't understand, and I had to ask somebody, well, what did she say? They were not nice. But she was right. She said, I worked all week, I have 2 days off, and I want to rest. And she said, it's just crazy. So, the 11 o'clock, I don't care if they play music until 11 o'clock, but play it at their discretion so that they don't interfere with my well-being or my neighbor's well-being. This is a small city, 8.5-mile radius. We've got to stop this. This guy that lived in Meadowbrook used to blame me for all the music that happened in Meadowbrook and Frost Park, and I live in Northwest 8th Avenue. He said, it's your fault because you are not controlling it and you're not taking care of it. And partially, he was right. He was right. Because you're the governing body that's supposed to protect the residents that voted us into this office. Let us do what's proper. Let us go back. This is half A right now that you're bringing to us, and it's not acceptable.
Thank you. Right. Well, yeah, we haven't really had a noise ordinance before, correct? Right. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Brandamari.
Commissioner Grace, you were on the commission. Wasn't it last year and the year before in Danny, all of us closed down poor Mr. Lowry for his music in the daytime? Why? Because carried across the water, and the people in those apartments heard it playing. He's been out of business for music for how long now? God knows. Danny, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
The Tiki Bar.
Yeah.
None of you were on the commission at the time. But yeah, we closed Lowry and the Tiki Bar down, and he still ain't got music. And he got it now?
He's got the music, but I don't
Okay.
think he has the credentials and the paperwork that he really needs to.
It's new owners, by the way.
Uh-oh, Mr. Lowry, I
So
didn't say
I just want you to
that.
know that we noticed that, because they think they're getting away with
But
something.
we did close them down.
I cannot go in his neighborhood,
Okay.
and I cannot go in your
Okay.
neighborhood and do it. and I
We're
don't
going to
want it
move
in my
on now.
neighborhood.
We're going to move on. Okay. Do you have another comment? Okay, one more person, and then we really need to move on. Okay?
My name is Gabi Echevarni. I live in 22 Northwest 14th Avenue in Dania. And you know I've been with this issue of the noise. I talk most of you. And from 11 to 7 a.m. is not enough because the people play music. She said she got a party. If they play the music from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock p.m., where you cannot be inside your house, you're not going to be happy because you are not going to, your kid or yourself. I cannot watch TV because my neighbor play music. He got the right to have a party, but I had to right to be in peace too. And then if you check on Hollywood, on the definition about, one of the definitions about unreasonable loud is plainly audible inside of a receiving property across a property line.
Oh, your neighbor.
Okay? That means if you want to play a party that loud, so loud that your neighbors across the property line is going to hear you, either go to a bar or rent a place or rent whatever you want to do. But what if, I want to rest, I want to watch a movie, I don't want to hurt your party. Have your party on a decent volume that doesn't affect me. I don't put my TV, or I don't put anything that bothers you. I don't go outside with the trumpet to play, right? Then don't play your music on my house. The tiki bar, I had that issue a couple years ago. And Eric told you, Mark can tell you, we bring them to the judge here, they say, you cannot do it. They say, you can. Now they say, oh, we are going to put roll down. They didn't put in nothing, and they started playing the bands again. Wednesday, 6 o'clock till 11 o'clock, I had the band playing inside my living room. I'm not happy. This 11 to 7 is not working. Thank you.
I love you, and we'll come back with
City
something
manager.
that you hate less. Don't worry about it.
City manager?
Yes, I just want to put it on the record that we've never had this before. We've never had a noise ordinance before. So we're working to bring one. So this is not finalized, it's not fully cooked. We're listening to everything that you all are saying, and we're going to go back to the drawing board. But I just want to let you know that we don't have one, and we've never had one, and we're taking the steps to bring one forward.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I make a motion to defer it. You want to defer it to the next meeting?
I recommend you go on first reading, and by second reading, which will be the public hearing, we will have all the things that you want addressed. If they're not addressed, you would defer the second reading. But this will get it started. You have a month now to wait.
Right.
We have a month to work on this for you. So I'd recommend don't defer it.
Do we have other comments before?
Commissioner Brandamari?
We do have a noise ordinance.
I know.
Yeah, we do have one.
I know we do.
It's just not,
Thank you, Bobby.
It's the decibel noise ordinance,
decibel
which
one,
hasn't
it's
been
different.
changed since 1984. So it was, and we
different.
no longer used the actual machine. So it was akin to having no noise ordinance if you're not using the actual thing. So I suppose functionally we had no noise ordinance.
Okay, so can we go back to a motion?
I make a motion to approve 7. What is this, 7?
7.7.
7.7.
Do we have a second?
No, wait a minute.
need a second.
We need a second.
Oh, I'll second it.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandamart,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
5-0.
Next is bids and requests for proposals.
8.1, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, awarding a contract related to city invitation to bid ITB number 19-003 to Poseidon Dredge and Marine Inc. for marine dredging work at the City of Dania Beach Marina in an amount not to exceed $138,000, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
I just have one question for the city manager. This is something that's already in the budget?
Yes, this is something that's already in the budget, and we have $12,000 to spare, and we're enhancing and augmenting the slips in the marina.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearings.
9.1, ordinance of the City of Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the development of regional impact abandonment request, OT 8518, submitted by John D. Voigt, Esquire, on behalf of the Design Center of the Americas for property located at 1855 Griffin Road in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date, first reading of the ordinance, but we have a request to continue this to the July 23 Commission meeting.
Was there a presentation? Okay, well, I didn't know. I didn't know if there was a presentation. I saw Corinne. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against? Seeing no one?
I make a motion to approve 9.1.
I'll second it.
Wait, what
It's to-
happened?
It's like we're not approving, we're continuing.
Oh.
I make a motion to continue 9.1.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
9.2, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving a site plan modification, SP 380-0 03 MOD request and special exception SE 9019 request submitted by Keller Architecture, Inc. on behalf of the Maimonides Shalom Academy, Inc. for property located at 5300 Southwest 40th Avenue in the city of Dania Beach, as legally described in Exhibit A, a copy of which is attached to this resolution, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date. This is continued from the June 11th commission meeting, but it has been withdrawn by the applicant. So there's no further hearings on this matter.
Do we have to take any action at all?
I
Vice Mayor?
I have a question. It says in the withdrawal letter, they withdraw and then, sorry, it's taking a minute to come up, but something about they're going to put trees in, or?
I think that had to do with a code violation. Is that correct?
There were a line of trees along the north property line that they say they lost during a hurricane. They are replacing those trees. That's one of the things that the neighbors felt strongly about, and they're going back and replacing those. So that's one of the things that they're going to be looking at.
Okay. And then, were there two other things in there?
Yes.
As well? What were the other two things?
The queuing and the traffic was going to be looked at as well. They were looking at various ways to control some of their peak times and the amount of cars that are there, trying to remove them from backing up and spilling onto Southwest 40th, and maybe rerouting the cars because they have a substantial parking lot, and trying to get more cars queued on site. They're also looking at shifting some of the times, the release, the drop-off and the pickup times to help alleviate those peak hours. So they're still working on that. That was something that was raised by our engineer. And then there was also a utility shed, or I think they used it for sports equipment along the north property line as well. That showed up a year or two ago, and we had no permit records, and it's very close to the property line, so they acknowledge that. They're willing to remove it. If they replace it, they'll pull permits for that as well.
So they're going to bring the item back, though?
No, those items don't require site plan, so it's a simple permit.
Okay, so they're just doing those things and then...
Yeah, and what happened is they were, originally the request was for...
additional...
From like the portables for classroom
Portables
space.
for the more students.
They've since are utilizing space within the existing building. There was one space that was divvied up into offices. They're going to convert that to a classroom. There was another art studio. They're going to convert that to a classroom. So they were able to accommodate the student growth inside the existing building.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering my question.
We should not expect this to come back then?
No.
Okay. All right. Next.
9.3, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, approving the site plan modification SP 11417 mod request and special exception SC 2819 request submitted by Dennis Mealy, Esquire, Greenspoon Martyr LLP, on behalf of Sterling Square LLC for the property generally located on the north side of Sterling Road between 12th Avenue and Phipp and Waiters Road in the City of Dania Beach, Florida, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. Anybody who's going to address the commission has to stand and be sworn, please. If you're going to speak, including staff, swear or affirm testimony to give will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. Yes. Thanks very much. If you've been contacted, commissioners, please so disclose.
Good evening. Good evening, Corinne LaJoy, Planning and Zoning Manager. This application is for a site plan approval and special exception. It is the property at 800 Sterling Road, and they're proposing a 7-Eleven on this site. The property is zoned C3. It is within the Regional Activity Center, and there are no code violations on the property. The subject property is generally located on the north side of Sterling Road, west of Pippin Road. The site had a previously approved site plan. It was an entire site, and the original site plan included the grocery store, the Aldi's, the self-storage, and on this particular parcel, a multi-tenant retail building. The grocery store, as I'm sure we all know, is open and operating. The self-storage building is currently under construction. So it's the third parcel that's coming in, and they're changing it from retail to the 7-Eleven and gasoline, the motor fuel pumps. And this is the site here. So you can see the big white roof to the east is the Aldi's. So this is the site where the 7-Eleven will occupy. And, of course, Sterling Road is to the bottom of the screen. The special exception is required to allow the retail fuel pumps. This is part identified in the permitted use table. The land development regulation speaks about special exceptions, and there's 11 criteria that have to be met. The applicants addressed how their request is consistent with those criteria, and that's provided in your backup. They're also asking for the site plan for the new construction. The proposed site plan, and this is really a modification because they're modifying it from the retail to the 7-Eleven and gas pumps, is to allow the reconfiguration of that southwest corner that was previously approved as retail. The staff requested that the applicant meet with adjacent property owners prior to the public meeting. The applicant indicated that they acknowledged that comment, but no further information was provided to staff. It also, because it's part of the site plan review, goes through the Development Review Committee. During that process, the city engineer stated that he concurs with the methodology and findings of the traffic statement that was prepared as part of this project. The site plan modification was reviewed by the DRC on February 25th, and that includes personnel from BSO Fire, Public Services, Landscape Consultant, and Community Development Division. The applicant does have some outstanding DRC comments that are left. Those are identified in the staff report as well as the resolution, so if it's approved, it will be, those comments will be conditions of approval that have to be met prior to the issuance of the permit. This is a rendering of what that 7-Eleven building, the retail building, will look like. And at this point, staff's recommending approval of the site plan, provided the special exception is approved, and also provided that those outstanding DRC comments are conditions of the approval. I'm available if you have any questions, and I know the applicant's here as well.
Commissioner James?
Yes, hi, Corinne. I can't remember off the top of my head, so maybe you can help me recall. When we decided to not allow convenience stores, when we separated the alcohol ordinance, does this apply to this store or these types of stores, or did we change the square footage?
It was the square footage.
So
yes.
we changed that, so
Yes.
they would be allowed to serve alcohol on Sundays?
Yes.
So are the Publix and Walmart's currently allowed to serve alcohol on Sundays too?
Right. Mhm.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we changed that.
Vice Mayor?
I was going to say, I attended the community meeting that we had for this item. I don't remember what month it was in. I don't know if you remember, Bob. It was, oh, okay, March 5th. It was well attended. The big families who show up for those meetings, they were there. I don't think there was one person who wasn't in support of that, and that's all I was looking for, was to take notes of how many people were not in support. And I didn't receive any bad comments on it. So it seemed like the community was in. So if the community's in, then I'm in too.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for or against?
Good evening, Dennis Mealy, 200 East Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, on behalf of the applicant. Just wanted to point out that we did have the neighborhood meeting that staff was referring to in the report, and the Vice Mayor, I think, gave a characterization. She was there, I wasn't, so I'll go with that. Secondly, just wanted to say that all of the conditions of approval are acceptable. Some of the plan changes have already been made. Everything else will be made prior to building permit, so we concur with the staff report. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. Thank you.
No other
I'll
public
make
comment?
a motion. Can I make a motion to move the item?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yep.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion and possible action. It looks like it's just me tonight. The first item is the Dania Beach 115th anniversary. I mentioned this last meeting, that we are 115 years old this year. And I have been going around and talking to several businesses, individuals, what have you, about potential sponsorships and that sort of thing. I've got several people that are committed to either donating money or donating in kind. I actually also approached Mr. Shapiro out in the atrium tonight before we came in, and he has expressed an interest as well in sponsorship. So I'm not putting you on the spot or anything, but in any event, the one thing that I do think we need to do, though, is I think we need to have a committee, and my suggestion is that we have somebody from each department in the city on that committee. They can simply be whoever's in charge of the directors of each department can appoint somebody, because I think it impacts every aspect of the city. I'd also like to see the chairs of each of our advisory boards involved in this committee as well, and unless the chair wants to designate somebody to come. Because I think there are some things that may be involved, Creative Arts Council, for example, Green Advisory Board, things like that, that I think we need to include in this project and making sure that we're doing, representing the entire city and issues that may be part of that. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm still really excited about this celebration that we're going to have. And a committee's fine, but we're looking at, 4 months out? So not a lot of time. I know we talked about doing a gala, similar to what was put on for the 110, and then also doing a beach component. Would it make sense to move it to being something that we just did on the beach?
Yes.
Versus doing
Yeah.
this huge gala as well? Because I think we could really do something fantastic and extraordinary
Yes.
if we did it on the beach.
Actually, one of the things that I've been talking to a couple people about is doing something, an all-day event where we actually have an agenda that we can mail out to people so that they actually know what's happening where, because not everybody's going to want to be involved the entire day, but there might be something we can do, say something at sunrise on the beach, for example, or maybe we can do, there be
a drum circle,
or maybe fireworks. I mean,
Bonfire.
there's different things that we could do, and not everybody is necessarily going to be available the entire day or want to be available the entire day. So I think if we do something as an all-day event and just one major event as opposed to doing a gala the night before or that night or whatever, and if we just limit it to one day, I think that's the best way to do it because we can do it a lot faster and have different aspects of it. Each of us can have our part in it as well, I think. So.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I like the idea of having all the different boards, the heads of all the boards, because I think they have, each of those boards could certainly showcase or bring what they've worked on for the last year, bring it forward during that time. And then just because I see an opportunity here with the Historical Society that we are sort of starting to put together, we've started to clean up some of the photographs and certain artifacts that we have here within the City Hall. Maybe we could have an unveiling of things.
Right.
We also talked about doing the renaming of the city. I was actually going to do that now, but now I'm thinking maybe it makes more sense
Do it all
to
at once.
run the contest right before, and then we could announce it at the party. So we could have several different elements. I bet everyone here is brewing with some kind of ideas of what they could bring to the party, right? Okay, get excited, guys. It's going to be good.
So, I mean, what I'm suggesting is if we do a committee, we need to do it quickly. So we could maybe pick a date and get people to show up for that date. And I'm thinking because some of the people that are on these boards especially also have day jobs, so it might need to be like a weekend just to get it started. A weekend date. Not a long meeting.
Whatever works.
In any event. So I don't know if we want to pick a date today or find out from each of the boards who they're going to appoint, find out from each department who they're going to appoint, and then select a date. Why don't we do that? Can I get consensus to do that?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is although I am trying to get sponsorships, and I do have a lot of people that are willing to commit, I think we're going to need some small amount of seed money to start the process, which would include things like staging area, marketing, that kind of thing. If we do some sort of a mailer, that's obviously going to take some money as well, though it's not going to be a lot. Because not everybody, I've had a lot of complaints from people that they don't always go on the website. Not everybody has
Advertise in the
computers.
press.
Not everybody reads the press. Most of us do, but not everybody does. So just something that will make sure that everybody is aware of it. But other things as well. There's a number of things. So I'm thinking if we could put aside an amount of money not to exceed, say, $20,000 as money towards this. If we don't use it all, we put it back, because I have a feeling we're going to get lots and lots of sponsorships on this, because I'm already getting a lot of interest from people. Commissioner James.
Yes, I have an issue with that. Everything that's brought here is scrutinized by money, and now we're asking for $20,000 of seed money. I don't even know if we have that. That's the question I always ask. Do we have $20,000 just sitting around? Because we tend to not have any money in a contingency to go to training and stuff, but we have $20,000 for a party. It's a little strange to me. I just want to know about the funding part of it, because it's a great idea. I'm on board for the idea. It came to us as something that we would not have to spend any money for. And is this a loan that's going to be paid back? What happens if you don't get the sponsorships guaranteed? How much money is it going to take? We still have the mural project. We still have all these other things that we're doing, trying to get a med unit. We just, I'm going down the same list that people go down on me. All of the money that we are spending on doing all these other things. And so $20,000 for not even a formal event for seed money is a bit excessive to me.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I'm reading this as more of a festival, like a day-long festival. So that's going to cost $1 or $2. So I feel you with the bringing things up here and really having them torn apart. But I don't want to be punitive here, because I think this is a great idea. This is something that benefits the entire city. I think we're going to incorporate a lot of different elements of what our different boards have been doing, what our different stakeholders are doing in the city. So
I'm just not comfortable with seed money. We're bringing an event here initially to say it's not going to it may not cost the city a thing, and making it sound as like it's going to be totally sponsored, and then asking for a seed money of $20,000. That's a bit different. And I'm not being punitive. I'm not being petty. I'm not doing tit for tat. I'm really $20,000 for a party. I know we are. I mean, that's the difference in doing a party where it's a formal party where you charge for each ticket, and you're going to get that money back. And now we're not doing the formal part of that. We don't even have a revenue source for it. We do have a budget that we are going to be cutting a lot of things. This is going to be a very tight budget year. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
No, I hear you, Commissioner, and I'm so in for that, for the med unit that we've been talking about, and I know that the budget is going to be very tight. That said, I also believe that we're going to be successful in getting several sponsorships, but to move forward and to start planning and to have the committee, we do have to commit, I think, to some number tonight. So if you're not comfortable with 20, if we can maybe throw another number out
5.
there. Okay, mine would be 10. What's say?
Wait, hold on one second. I just want to throw out something. First of all, I never said it was going to be completely free. I had always said that we were going to try to make it as little expense as possible, which is the whole reason why we're trying to do sponsorships, and the reason why I've been approaching people for about a month and a half now, trying to get this done. And it's a not to exceed number. It's not a matter of actually using the full amount. I honestly do think that we're not going to need to use the full amount. It's just to be safe, and just looking at things like staging areas, some marketing, but again, we might end up getting that sponsored. I don't know. There's a number of things. We might have to reserve entertainment and have the entertainment come in and give them money up front. There's a number of things that we might need the money for now that perhaps we can put back in at some point in time. But I don't think it's an unreasonable request. It's a one-time expense, and it's a big deal. That is something that is good for this entire city and brings everybody together. Commissioner Harris.
What would you think about incorporating the 115th anniversary celebration into a Dania After Dark celebration and making it just a little bit bigger? And then the other thing I wanted to say was back in 2015 when we had the formal event, and the proceeds from the formal event paid for the next day, and I believe it was around $15,000 that we netted out of that event. So 10 to 15 I think is a reasonable amount. A lot of those things were in-kind donations from the county, and we can always look at that as well as far as the showmobile, the sound systems, and some of the other things that they donated. So it's not just that we have to come up with the money ourselves. I think with our contacts in the county that we could get some money.
I've actually been speaking to the county already.
Okay,
I've
that's
already
fine,
spoken
because
to
last
several
time
people.
we incorporated it into the Broward 100 thing. It was Broward 100 anniversary, and it was Dania Beach 110, so there's kind of like cross-promotion things that we could do to make it a little bit more successful.
And that's something that is an idea that I've been kicking around as well, maybe combining with the Dania After Dark, just depending upon what ends up being the best time for this. Commissioner Brandemarty.
Yes. I love the idea of what Commissioner Bill brought up because of the fact that we would have to also look at shuttles for people from out west that can't, parking. I'm not in favor, and we're working at the beach. We're doing things that it would be not right to incorporate something like this down there at this time. What we're talking about is how we want to get started on the beach ASAP, and to make a bigger event, like Bill is saying, and incorporate into Dania After Dark. Look how many people we get there. So why not work on that as a base? And like he said, if it gets 15,000, we can ask Mr. Shapiro for the other 5 and make it 20.
I'm personally fine with 15,000 as long as, I just think we need to have something there. I know. No, I know. But I know you are. I know you are. But I do think we need to have something there that we're able to use. Vice Mayor?
I mean, I'm not really in love with doing the Dania After Dark thing. I mean, to me, what was special was doing it at the beach and celebrating. Our beach has gone through tremendous changes and continues to do so, and I wanted to bring back the life and the vibrance and the excitement of getting everyone back to the beach, and look what we're doing and look what's changing. So while there were some logistical challenges there, I thought it was nothing that was insurmountable. I would also say that nothing that we were planning by doing it on the beach precludes us from having certain events of that day that we couldn't charge ticket prices for to recoup money. So I don't know. I mean, that's not an issue.
Or parking fees?
Or parking fees.
Parking fees.
Or, right, several other ways to get that money back. So I wanted to make that point that just because we wouldn't be doing the gala event, it does not mean that we wouldn't be doing things that we could be charging money for tickets for, as well as having free events that people could certainly enjoy as well.
Commissioner Harris?
So when is the actual anniversary? I think it's in
November 30th. November 30th, but that's right in the middle of the holidays, so it's probably not going to work.
So, on top of that, doing a Dania After Dark around the holiday time and incorporating the tree lighting event and making it bigger and better and more lights and lighting it up in an anniversary. And what do you think about that idea? I mean, it's just an idea.
I'd like to see if we put together a committee and see what the committee thinks about it, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of really good ideas here, but I think it would be good to have the different individuals and see what can be done, what can't be done, and then we can go from there. Commissioner James?
Yes. Number one, if we're talking about Dania After Dark, we need to incorporate people that are in charge of Dania After Dark and see if that's even feasible for them. I don't want to just throw things on people's plates. I do like the idea of the Dania After Dark and incorporating everything else. Maybe because I'm just not, I'm not a beach goer like that, and I don't want to be all in the sand and all that other kind of stuff all day long. And in the heat, I already have a tan, as y'all can see. So the whole beach idea is just not going to be my favorite, but that's just mine. But if it was a consensus of where we wanted to do it, I mean, I would definitely go with the Dania After Dark way. If it was okay if we had a conversation with the people who run the event on top of the CRA who manages the event. I don't know if that's the first thing we need a consensus for, or if we need, I would like to also see how it formulated out and looked on paper. I just don't want the committees. I definitely want it to be involved in that as well. I just don't want all the committee members. I just don't know how it would work.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is form a committee, because we need to determine from each department the different resources that we're going to need. And we're going to, and see what can be done and what can't be done. So I think if we can just agree that we need to form this committee with somebody from each department and the chair from each advisory board or their designee, then I think we can start from there and then see what's available and what we need to do from there. I do still think that we need a little bit of seed money. If we can do 15,000, I would be okay with that. Commissioner Brandemarty.
We use a lot of people that put together our Art and Seafood Festival. I mean, they have more experience than we do in putting this together to incorporate.
There's always-
Rainy After Dark.
I think there's always the possibility that we can use different vendors that we've used in the past, but that's
Agreed.
the whole point of, we need to try to get this.
Yeah, but don't let this committee be so big as everybody's going
No.
to disagree with each other.
No, that's why we're saying one person from each department. I think either the city manager or assistant city manager should be there. I think we need to have one member of the commission, because otherwise it becomes a sunshine issue. And I would like to be that member, since this is something that I have brought forward. And I do think that everybody can put their thoughts forward. We've been doing that. And also then the chairs from each of the different advisory boards, or like I said, their designees if they can't make it. So it doesn't get too big, and we don't have people creating a bigger ruckus about it, but at the same time, I think we need to incorporate all of these individuals simply because of the fact that it impacts all of the resources all around, and we need to be able to see what we can do and what we can't do. I do agree that I think it needs to be a one-day thing as opposed to a multiple-day thing, because it will keep it less expensive, but it will also keep it, we might be able to do things in different locations. I mean, it's just, we need to talk about it more is what we need to do, and come up with a plan that we can then execute. Commissioner James.
Yes, I guess this will be my last comment. I would like to add Raquel to the boards if we're adding the other advisory boards. And I mean, my number is 10. I heard the vice mayor say 10. I think that was a good compromise, and so that's what I'm going to go with.
Fine, do we have consensus for not to exceed 10?
Not to exceed 10.
And a committee to be formed, like as we discussed. Okay, so we have consensus.
With every single advisory board? For what reason would you have a green advisory board person on it?
Well, if we're doing something at the beach, there might be environmental issues.
The beach, I thought we were agreeing, and I think you
I
should
don't
take
think we
the
are.
consensus on that.
No, that was something I thought we said we were going to have the committee discuss. The committee would discuss what types of events we would do.
I don't agree with that. I disagree with that. I feel it should be the commission's decision. We're spending the money, we're putting it out, it should be our decision.
Okay. All right, so we have a consensus, though, of there's at least 3 or 4 people here who are fine with having the committee do this. Is that okay? Yes.
It depends. Is the committee going to decide where we're having it? If that's
I think
the
she's
direction, then no.
No.
If the committee decides where we're having it, I don't know. These people don't even, the committee members don't live in, like the people that are ahead of the department, they don't live in the city, and they're not elected to
necessarily.
make those decisions either. So
Not necessarily heads of the department, but somebody from each department.
Regardless
plus
of what it is.
Plus the chairs from each of the
Okay,
advisory
well,
boards.
get your
It's a
consensus.
commission
So-
decision.
Okay, well, do I have consensus, though? 3? I have 3. That we'll have a committee discuss it further?
You're going to go to the beach.
I would rather us decide that what it's going to be, where it's going to be held at.
That's all.
That's it, and then the committee can take it.
I agree.
City manager, go ahead.
So I have a suggestion, which I think could be a win-win. So we could do something like small during the day at the beach, and then we could finish it off at a Dania After Dark that Saturday night. Can do something in the morning or the afternoon, and then come back here and party at night at Dania After Dark, and we can all come together.
I thought
Commissioner Brandon Marty.
I thought you were saying that we're getting started work on getting into phase 3. Why would you bring a party down there when there isn't even any food trucks down there? All this becomes a cost, and we've already got the bases right here at City Hall.
That's up to you.
And
but
you'd have to shuttle all the people down the beach. This isn't for the residents, is it? This is for something else.
What do you mean shuttle the people?
You wouldn't have to shuttle everybody. There's plenty of parking, and I actually have already spoken to a couple of restaurants that are willing to do some in-kind donations for food. So that I don't think is the problem. As I was saying before, there might be multiple things that go on during the day in different locations. It doesn't necessarily all have to be in one location. So, Vice Mayor.
I like your suggestion over here.
Then my other suggestion was, if we're going to have the committee meet, could we make the final decision on that,
Yeah.
on what their recommendation may be?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think
So
that's
perhaps,
perfectly fine.
is this a middle ground? The committee can make their recommendation to us about about which they think it could be. It'll be brought back to us, and we will make the final decision as to where it's going to be held.
Again,
Commissioner Brandemarty.
Again, I will say, there's too many people on that committee for everybody to agree. And if it's $10,000, $15,000, that's what we're sitting up here for. We should be making the decision and agreeing on where it's going to be. And already we had a consensus of 3, not the beach, but at City Hall. We're trying to bring people up here, not to the beach. We even closed the beach because you ain't got enough room down there.
Anybody else? Okay. My suggestion is that we set up this committee. We'll find out who's going to be appointed from each department, from each board. Have the committee then determine the date, and we'll do this quickly, so it needs to get moved along quickly. And then if we have the $10,000 in not to exceed $10,000, they can start working on this, put together in the first meeting some suggestions of things that we could bring back immediately about location, about some of the things that will take place, 1 day or 2 day or however it's going to happen. And then this way we can have something by our next meeting, I would think, and vote on it. If you don't like it, you vote no. That's right.
Well, I'm gonna stand with, as a commissioner and someone that's gonna take the fall for things when they don't go right.
Yep.
I'm going to want to make the decision on where it's going to be initially and give them that direction, and then the committee could then give us. I mean, if you had 3 people up here say you wanted a day after dark, and then you have a committee go form and say all these other places they could have it, you're kind of wasting time, in my opinion. So that's just mine. I'm okay with the committee. I'm not okay with us not deciding where it's going to be initially.
Okay, do we have a consensus to set up the committee and do the $10,000? Not to exceed, yes. Okay. As far as a location, I think we would still be making the decision. It would just be recommendations from the committee based upon what they can see what the resources are. Where it'll be including somebody from the CRA, it'll be including people from Parks and Rec, including people from different departments, so we can see what actually makes the most sense. And we don't have to accept the recommendation, just like we don't with other things that come before us. So I think if we just do this, and then we have them come back at the next meeting, and then we can make a decision whether we agree with it or we can vote on where we want to have it at that point. Can I get a consensus on that?
Can I get an amen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes for me.
Yes.
Okay, so we will do that.
Put me in
Thank you.
for a big no. The committee's too big.
Okay. The next item that I have is the Assistant City Attorney position. I brought this up before when there was some discussion about an RFQ with regard to the City Attorney. All I really want to do with this is I just want to make sure that we are including something like this in our budget, because we're going to be coming up with our budget discussions and putting things together and trying to see where the money would come from. Now, I will tell you that, and I don't know if you each have, but I did speak with both our city attorney and our director of finance through the city manager. I know that our city attorney's salary is going to change a bit because of the percentages with regard to his pension. So that is going to be decreased. I have actually spoken to the city attorney, and Tom, you can confirm for me or not. I have asked him if he would be personally willing to reduce it a bit further. And he has said that he definitely will do that. So that's something he has to work out numbers, and he's told me that at the next meeting he'll have more information for us specifically as to where it would go. So we would end up probably having about $100,000 from there, possibly more. On top of that, if we were to bring in an assistant city attorney who has experience in the areas that Tom does not, for example, land use, code, real estate, the areas that we're sending a lot of business outside of the city for outsourcing, I've calculated, looking at what we've been spending over the last few years on this, I think we could probably save another about $300,000 a year. So that would actually be more money coming back here that we could put towards an assistant city attorney. It also would help us because obviously Tom's not going to be here forever, and we have, nothing personal, Tom, but, and anything can happen at any time. And I know we've been really trying to work on having more depth in each of our departments, and legal is one of those areas we just don't have the depth. And God forbid if something were to happen to him, we don't have anybody. There's nobody else. So I think it would be an opportunity to bring somebody in now, somebody who has experience in those areas. And I'm not talking about somebody brand new right out of law school. I'm talking about somebody that has 10, 15, 20 years in those particular areas that would be able to, again, reduce the outsourcing and could also step in if need be at any particular time. And like I said, all I really want to do is basically put this into the budget. It wouldn't be finalized. It would just be looking to see if it's something that we could potentially do with our next budget for next year. Vice Mayor?
So I'm a little, maybe I'm just a little confused why this one's coming up today, because we had I also sat down with Tom and with Nikki, and we went over it, and I know that Nikki said she was going to sit down, and Tom was going to sit down with all my colleagues and basically talk about what his terms were for him, how much he needed. So I don't know how we have this conversation without having that conversation, and I really didn't want to have that conversation. And I don't even know which commissioners have sat with Tom, so I don't know who's on the same, okay. So half of the people are on the same page and half are not, so that's confusing. So if I start talking about things that happened during that meeting, and points that the city attorney made as to how the assistant city attorney was going to be paid for, and what concessions he was willing to make in terms of his salary and pension, half of them aren't going to know what I'm talking about. That said, I feel like we've been having this conversation for months now. I don't know when these meetings are going to be happening with these commissioners. I feel like everything's up in the air. And then I go back to we had consensus to move forward with the RFP. So in the interest of moving forward, while not closing any doors with City Attorney Ansbro, he can continue to have these conversations. I believe Nikki is going to do the presentation at the budget. We can see if that proposal from the city attorney works for any of you. It wasn't what I was looking for in terms of bottom line. It didn't come close for me, but that will be for everyone to decide when they look at the presentation, which last I heard was going to happen on the 23rd. At the same time, I feel like my RFPs, what's the point of getting consensus, because they keep disappearing. So I would like to see that, us move forward with that. I don't think the city attorney should have to craft his own RFP. That's a very peculiar thing for him to have to do. I think we should have an outside firm, one of our firms, do that. But at the same time, I don't want to close anything, the negotiations off with Tom. I still want to move forward with that. It's absolutely nothing to do with the city attorney on a personal basis. I think he's a wonderful human being, and it's for me, it's all the bottom dollar and getting the most out of our money, and that's it. So as far as the assistant city attorney, I can't even talk about that right now. We're not there yet. That's so premature, that conversation. First, I need to know what's going to happen with the city attorney, and I don't know what that is yet. That's where I am.
Commissioner Brandimari?
Listen, the protocol was this. The vice mayor asked for the RFP. The direction to do that was given to staff. Did you do it? My question is directly through the mayor to the attorney. Did you do that?
I wrote that up about 6 weeks ago, or 2 months ago.
You wrote it up, but did you do what was directed by this commission to do, which was to send it out on a request that was brought up by Commissioner, I'm sorry, not Commissioner, but by our Vice Mayor and the consensus of this entire commission? Was it ever sent out?
No, because there's still...
Was it ever discussed here after that?
It was not, it was presented to those, to all of you. Copies were sent to all of you. 4 big questions were put into it that were never answered or brought back for discussion here. The number of years of you would be seeking for such a person, or if it was a firm, such a person, and their number 2 person. I forget the other questions, but there are at least 4 major questions that the commission would have to have discussed at the RFQ to issue it.
Okay, so then can we please go back again like we always seem to do and put out that request for the RFP? By we were all in agreement with, but none of us followed through with the procedure that you put in place. I agree with you on that, Tom. But I feel the same way that it should go back out. It didn't even go out to begin with. It's a thing that we agreed on. You can't just make a decision one day and then don't follow through. Why should anybody have any faith in us?
Okay. Couple of comments. Whether it is Tom sitting here or not, I still think we need, the city this size and the growth that we are going through, we need to have some depth in the department, which would mean a city attorney and an assistant city attorney. Most cities this size, and some even smaller, actually have 2 and sometimes 3 attorneys, depending upon what it is that that's the type of law that they're doing, because no attorney knows everything. There's just no one that knows everything. All I am asking for, I'm not asking for us to put out an ad, I'm not asking for us to decide qualifications. I am simply asking for us to put this as one of the line items in the budget. We can discuss it. If there isn't enough money for it, then that might be a whole different discussion, but I think it needs to be put into the budget so that we can consider it and see if there is money for it. Vice Mayor.
Well, from the sit-down that I got, the money from it was coming from the reduction.
Right.
From part reductions of his something or the other.
The pension, the salary, as well as...
It's a formula that's used every year to calculate the thing called the pension in lieu of payment. That was going to come down a certain number of 40%. Then I spoke to the vice mayor. I hadn't given her a number to come back with, but I could tell that she and I think maybe others of you would say, I think you need to do better with that, because it's still a very high number, which I'm willing to do. I haven't had an opportunity to speak to each of you individually, which I would wish to do. And my plan would be, if I may be asked for this, let me present at the July 23 budget hearing a very detailed proposal of what this involves. The whole intent of having an assistant city attorney is not to spend more money than we're having. So I would be reducing my compensation total, is the proposal, and I'll come to a number with that at that time, so we can look at that and speak to you before that, as well as a reduction in outside counsel for land use and code, such that when we calculated it with the finance director, between $135,000 and $150,000 in the budget, in addition, would be brought back to the general fund. That's the plan. I didn't want to get into the details of it because the details have not been completely worked out. That's why this next several weeks will be done, and it will be put up on the screen for everyone to see what the proposal is. That's the request.
And Tom, I appreciate that you know, and I know you're going to sit down with the rest of the commissioners, so I'm just going to say that you're sitting down with the commissioners and willing to negotiate and back and forth. And if we are able to, to get to that place, great. But I think concurrently, at the same time, there's a process of the way we do things. If we don't follow the process, then what's the point of having a process? Let's just go willy-nilly and do whatever we all want. And if we say that we have consensus to move forward with an RFP, and the reason why that then means that I can't go along with what you're saying, Mayor, is because in that RFP, we said not just for an attorney, but also looking at a firm. And if we had an entire firm, then that would mean that perhaps we didn't need an assistant city attorney at that point. So it's just, without having that piece of the puzzle, and I wish we did, I wish we already had our answer, but we don't. So given that, we can't move, I don't know how we can move forward with what you're asking, Mayor. But I definitely want to continue the talks with the city attorney, see if we can get to a place of agreement, but concurrently, I want that RFP. I don't want to have to ask 3 times for an RFP anymore. I don't want any of my colleagues to have to keep asking for an RFP 3 times. So, I don't know, do I need to make a motion on that? It's
It's
well,
a
but
consensus thing,
I
but
want to
it's-
make I don't want Tom to have to write his own RFP.
There's already one written.
It's weird. It's weird that
It was sent out. I have it. I've seen it. It
She's
was
right,
sent
it's the
out.
one that I wrote, which is an odd thing to have done, but I can tell you that I took pieces from Plantation, Lauderdale Lakes, 3 other cities, carefully wrote it, sent it to each of you, like I said, about 6 weeks ago, and had 3 or 4 questions, the primary one of which is, how many years minimum experience would you require? The charter only requires a lawyer to have 2 years of experience, which in my opinion is ridiculous.
Correct, and we had that conversation,
But
and
we-
then shortly after is when we started having the conversation of perhaps slowing down on the RFP. Maybe things could work out with you staying here if we got the assistant city attorney, so things shifted around.
Right.
But I'm saying, and I don't think that you didn't do, and I mean, all your work that you do is of excellent quality. So I don't have any reason to believe that the RFP that you crafted wasn't of excellent quality. But I think if we're trying to do things in the spirit of best practice, it's probably would be having outside counsel write the RFP, and it has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with what I believe is probably best practice, having an outside counsel write that. So I would like that to happen, and then I would like you to continue your talks with whatever other commissioners you haven't met with yet, and for Nikki to do her presentation on whatever day that's occurring. And then that's it.
I just want to add that I think best practices would be that we have depth in every department, and this does not address the depth issue. And that is the main reason why I am bringing this up at this point, is because we have budgets that are being prepared. And I just think that we need to include, maybe just as an option, as having a city attorney and an assistant city attorney, so that this way it is included in the budget. Again, it's not being finalized. This is a matter of just putting it there so that we're looking at it and we can see if it's something that we need to do or should do or can afford to do. Last year, there were 6 positions, new positions that were approved in Public Works. 6. I don't think they've all been filled, but there were 6 new positions. I'm asking for one new position in a department that has no depth. And I don't think that that is a lot to ask to be put into the budget as a potential line item that we need to address. So, Commissioner James.
Yes, I'm just not going to drag mine out. I do not support approving that position at this time, and yes, I do support having outside counsel do it. That's it.
Commissioner Brandemar?
I do not support it either, only for one reason. We're just pretending that your vice mayor isn't existing.
That's not what I'm doing.
She got this. She's entitled to it. And I feel we're overriding her, overlooking her, and that's not the right way you do things. The previous commission would never, ever do what this one is doing. Shame on you.
Commissioner Harris?
Can we take a vote on what we want to do?
That's fine. I mean, if we don't want to do this at this time, then we can take a look at what happens next week when the presentation is done. And then if we need to add it in at some point, we can always add it in later. I'm
Yeah,
fine with that.
I would just like to defer this, because I had a casual conversation with Tom, but I haven't had a major sit-down with him and Nikki about the financial ramifications for that, so can we defer?
The vice mayor asked for
We
something,
can
too.
defer.
Well, no, I asked for my RFP. I asked for my RFP. So I don't know if because I'm asking for it to be done by outside counsel, if it needs to be, does that need to be a separate motion?
Well, let me ask you this. Have you looked at the one that was sent to you previously?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so then I don't know why we couldn't look at that first and see if it's something that we can tweak from there. That's all. We can answer the questions.
Because I didn't finish law school, so I don't
It's
know.
not-
I don't know if that's the best one. How am I going to discern that? If the details, do you understand what I'm saying? If I understand that I don't know the minutia of a legal document, of an RFP for a lawyer, for a city attorney, why wouldn't I say I should get the person?
Here's a suggestion. I don't mean to interrupt you, but make it simpler.
do.
If we could look at the one that was done previously, answer the questions, and then we could perhaps send it to one of our outside counsel to review, as opposed to reinventing the wheel. That's all.
So to use the one that's crafted and to send it to outside counsel.
And have them look at it, see if they feel that it's appropriate, see if they think that there's something else that should be changed. And then this way, you're not paying outside counsel to start from scratch and do the whole thing from the beginning, because that's how we ended up here in the first place, was all of the outsourcing and the expense that it goes into the outsourcing. If we keep outsourcing every little thing, it's going to become a problem, and it has become a problem. I'm trying to save us money on the outsourcing. I've looked at the bills, I've seen what we're outsourcing, and this is a way to resolve that. Now, if we go ahead and we take the one that's already been crafted by somebody that we're already paying, give him the answers to the questions that he had, and have him send it to one of the outside counsels that we already have retained. They are then reviewing something as opposed to creating it from scratch. Trust
Okay,
me,
that's fine.
I do this for a living. I bill clients all the time, and I know that if I'm creating something from scratch, I'm charging a lot more than if I'm just reviewing something that they sent me.
Okay, well, in the interest of being efficient, sure. Let's go and take that one that's already crafted. Do you need us to answer any more questions, City Attorney?
Yes, the questions I originally posed to you, I'll resend them.
Okay, and I'll ask that my colleagues please send back your answers, whatever they are, to the City Attorney so that he can complete the document, and then we will have that sent out to review to an outside firm, and then we'll move forward from there.
Commissioner Harris, did you have something? I didn't mean to turn off your light. Okay. Commissioner Brandemari, did you have something else?
Tom,
Yes.
could you please tell me what one of those, just one of those questions are that's so relevant and important to this decision?
Yes.
Please do.
Sitting here with you, I have 42 years of experience. You don't maybe need 42 years of experience, but I can tell you, I think it helps you. Certainly a opinion of my own. But you certainly don't want a lawyer with 2 years' experience, which the charter allows you to use. I couldn't possibly recommend that to you. So the first question I asked of all of you was, what is the minimum number of years you wish to see a city attorney have? Most people say 15 having served as a city attorney. Do you need that? That's your call. You don't think you need that? That's your call. You respond to me when I send the question, and then the other question has to do, if you went with a firm, what would the second chair do? So the city attorney is sick or out ill in a law firm, how many years would the second person have? 15 years? 10 years? The last thing you want is somebody up here who doesn't know what they're talking about. So when a question comes up, they can't answer it directly while they're here, unless it has to be research, which should be rare. And in
And
all
what
my
if-
years, it's been rare.
And what if we don't choose to answer that because we still want that RFP?
You have to write that in the RFP. No RFP goes out without a minimum number of years of experience for the lawyer to have. So you would say 15, 10, or no opinion. Whatever numbers you choose, or no opinion. And I'll
Well,
end
no
up...
opinion would be because of the charter? Is
No,
that the reason
no,
why?
no, it's what, how many years do you think a lawyer should have?
You better have enough years to keep me out of jail.
Well, at least that.
40, at least.
See, 40 would be good. I'm good with 40. And then I'll apply for it. So that's what I meant. You'll see the questions. That's what the primary questions are. How much experience do you really want of a person that does this work? I think it's really important that they have municipal Florida government experience. If you don't, you can tell me and you'll respond accordingly.
Vice Mayor.
I promise I'm wrapping it up. Would the reviewing firm then have the ability to apply for the position?
The only people I can give, the only outside counsel we've got are Tim Ryan's law firm, which does only code, and the Weiss Sirota law firm, which does all kinds of city work for about 30 different cities.
So,
Weiss Sirota is probably the firm I would send it to.
Okay.
If you would say they would review it, but they're not going to be qualified to respond to it, that would be the direction I would give them.
so then Weiss Sirota would be precluded from applying for the position?
If that's your direction. I mean, if they're going to go back and write the specs, probably yes, they should not participate in the solicitation.
Okay. All right, well, I mean, I agree with that recommendation, that they should, if they're going to be reviewing the document, that they should then be precluded from application. All right, do we need a motion on that?
If you have a consensus, I'm fine if that's what you wish to do. Tomorrow I'm going to send out the document for you to take another look at. Please answer the questions. When I get those back, I will send them to the Weiss Sirota law firm. I anticipate we'd have something back by July 23, so we can dovetail that response with what I wish to propose to the commission for going forward.
Do we have consensus on that item?
On which part of the item? You have consensus on that part. You don't have consensus on adding that position. Not for me.
No, I was just talking about, do we have consensus to?
Yes.
Thanks.
I'm going to guess we don't have consensus on adding it as a line item at this point, but I would like to bring this back up at the time that we do the presentation for the budget. So that's fine. Next item is commission comments. Commissioner Brandon.
Just want to give the condolences for Bobby Grace and also Ann, owner of Three's Company. Her brother died. And then next is a question, comment. What in the heck is going on with Popeyes? Does anybody know? There's nothing. That's what's going on. We built a whole Avery Hotel and a whole Dania Point, and this place still didn't get out there. What's going on?
Yeah, I think we're into year 3 now with that project.
Oh,
And it's just a
Mark, you're
rehabilitation
funny.
project, too.
Yeah, but I know you've
It's
been on
amazing.
it constantly, even
Yeah.
with the new manager.
Of course.
Update me, please.
Well, I will have to, I don't have the latest information. I apologize. I didn't know you were
no,
going to
I
ask that
apologize
question,
for
but I will
not
get back
talking
to
to
the
you
commissioners
before.
and give you the latest information on it.
Yeah, no, I apologize to you
So-
for not discussing and screaming at you before.
That's
But
all
I
right.
will make sure I
That's
don't do
okay.
that again.
Yeah, I think we're all
But,
frustrated.
you know, I'm getting sick of it. I'll be going over by the churches over there, and I'll run into a lot of people saying, you know, what's going on with Popeyes? We saw the food truck there. They were delivering food. Well, I don't know who's eating it unless it's the roaches. But us
I'll get back.
people, please get on them, and
course.
no matter what you do. All right?
We will.
I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Not really bye-bye. You're staying.
Anything else?
No, just Popeyes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yeah.
I just want to request of the commission that we move the the July 23rd meeting to July 30th. That's just move it back one more week, so that way we have the whole month of July off. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Fine with that.
We okay with that? Tuesday, July 30th,
So,
instead of Tuesday, July 23rd.
well, you'll be back though? Oh, okay.
I will. Okay?
I'll go with that.
We need a motion?
Is that in?
Probably a new motion, yeah. Or do we just need consensus? Motion be better.
I'll make a motion to defer the meeting till Tuesday, July the 30th.
Well, what about the special budget meeting? Does that?
We
but
would-
I mean-
It'll be all of them.
No, it's also not only the budget meeting, it's the CRA and it's the commission meeting. Are we violating anything at all, or will we be prepared for the date, city manager?
Yes, Commissioner, and that's a very good question. And I had asked our finance director, and she said that we would be good as long as we let them know.
Okay, yeah, because I don't want to be in violation of that date that we got to do. All right, so from the 23rd to
To
the
the
30th.
30th.
It's fine.
What about the CRA? Do we
CRA
need to
manager,
check-
you okay?
No, 30th. I hope she says yes. I'm not going to come to 2 meetings.
You can add just more to the agenda that way.
Good evening, Raquel Williams, CRA Executive Director. I don't have any concern with moving it to July 30th, but I did note that the time was moved to 6 p.m., and I'm a little concerned that we may have a large agenda on that day. And so if the City Commission meeting is going to start at 7, we had not really discussed moving it from 5:30 to 6.
So you want it
You
at
want that half
5:30?
hour.
I'm not sure how long the special budget meeting,
Well, Nikki's here. She'll
how
come up
long
and
that
tell
will
us.
take.
The budget, Bill said the budget meeting is right away.
The first budget meeting in July is going to be basically the presentation of the city manager's recommended budget. You're really going to set probably your tentative millage rate and your tentative assessment rates, and then we'll have a workshop later on, probably towards the end of August. So that meeting can be as short or as long as your discussion really takes. We'll give you an overall presentation. That'll probably take maybe about 15, 20 minutes. So
what are we
and then,
saying?
and then set the rate. So
We could realistically probably.
you could realistically do it in a half hour to 45 minutes. Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Is everybody okay with that?
If you want to play it safe, we could do 5:45 for the CRA meeting, if that's something you.
If you think we can do that.
Yeah, I think 5:45 would be okay.
Okay.
So our meetings will start at 5:45?
Well, no, the CRA meeting will, but we still have the 501 budget.
Okay, so 5 o'clock for budget,
5:01.
5:45 for CRA, 7 o'clock
Question.
for.
Can we keep it at, can we keep the CRA meeting at 5:30 and just if we run over, because sometimes we have a lot of discussion, and you just never know. You wake up and the meeting's supposed to take an hour and it take 2. So I don't know.
Budget's at 5 p.m. and then 5 o'clock for CRA?
5:30.
5:30, right.
5:30, and 7.
Yes.
Okay, got it down.
Okay, next issue. I was approached by fellow nurse. I'm still in my commission comments, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Lauren's fellow nursing person, the Vice Mayor of Hollywood, Tracy Kalari. Hollywood requests that we have a joint commission workshop between the two cities because some of our projects are multi-jurisdictional and not a formal workshop, but just like a get-together because like the 441 project, Oakwood, Dania Point, probably Sheridan and US 1, a lot of projects will be jointly multi-jurisdictional. So if we all got together, I think they'd be on board with it. So how does everybody feel about that?
I'm fine with it, but I think it has to be noticed if we're going to all be there.
Oh, yeah,
so, yeah.
it will be.
So,
It'll be a properly noticed workshop, not a
Right.
meeting, not a formal meeting. To just talk about projects in our mutual jurisdictions. For example, the 441 project out by the Hard Rock, even though the project itself is on in Hollywood, but it backs up to the Dania Beach residents. So, it's just basically an informational workshop on multi-jurisdictional issues.
Do you have a date, or are you just gearing?
We just need a consensus on whether or not we should look for a date, and we have to also look for a location. So it's kind of preliminary,
Are we
but
going to do it in Dania or Hollywood?
on the border.
Right on the border?
Sheridan
Right in the middle
and
of Sheridan Road.
US 1.
Sheridan's
right on
At
the
Miami
border.
Subs, right there.
Okay. I'm in.
Joe's Grill. We'll
Okay.
go to Joe's Grill.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Danny addressed the issues with the girl gang. That was great police work in a short period of time. I want to commend you on that because we had video. I think the girls went through the neighborhood they passed our house at 12:16, and then they were at the neighbors at 12:18, and we could capture their movements. It was brilliant police work, Danny. So thank you very much. Those same girls maybe could form a band, and we could have a girl gang band. So. The other thing with the League of Cities is the complete counts, the Broward complete counts, the census, which is coming up. The chairperson is Margaret Bates, who is also with the League of Cities. She's the mayor of Lauderhill, so we can work with Margaret on a variety of issues that they're implementing for the census. We talked about staffing the shelters, which is going to be another big project that we can do in the future. And of course, the ongoing talks about affordable housing go on, and there's more. There seem to be more people coming into the playing field, so the information is good and it's coming out all the time. So as I get it, we'll share it. So I think that's all I have. Thank you. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us tonight too.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I want to first of all give Carol Hemmis a big round of applause for being part of the honor flight that happened on June the 6th. I think that is cool. I wanted to know how many kids we have signed up for the jail tour. This is something that I brought to Parks and Recreation, and I know I was supposed to help promote the kids coming, and I have been super busy and haven't been able to do that, so I hope that we get a good turnout for that. I want to say happy birthday to Les. June babies are the best. I read the manager's report, and it was just one thing that I love that we are trying to amp up our security around here and our measures. I do not think that the sign-in sheet is the best option because we don't require people to have an ID. They could just put Joe Blow up there, and I just don't know how effective that is. I do want to give, can't even think his name, Ken, a button that will give him access to lock the doors in the case that something is happening on the outside, especially around summertime. We get a lot of kids. I know we've gotten a lot of fights in the past where it's just a lot of commotion going on. We're running in and out. If we had the option to just, I don't know what to call it, a panic kind of a button, I don't think anyone that's coming to shoot up City Hall is going to sign in. So I don't, and it's a lot of homeless people that come here to use our facilities as well. And so instead of them giving us misinformation, I would rather scrap that part of it. I was, on Juneteenth, I was invited to help host a panel on different topics within Broward County, and I spoke on affordable housing there, and we're still looking for the county to fund their trust fund. And I know that we have an expansion of the dates, I can't think of it off the top of my head, for the classes that are going to be offered here. I don't know the dates. Is this week? Is this Saturday? So if anyone's out there and they're looking to become a first-time home buyer of any sort and to get those qualifications and to get that certified, I would recommend that you contact the CRA or come to those meetings because that certification, I think, is good for a year. I think that's it for me. I don't think this is the last. Do we have another meeting in June? Haha, this is the end. Happy 4th of July, everyone. I'm not going to see you all before then. Be safe. And please have, don't have little kids with those fireworks in their hands. And please, kids in the Northwest section, please don't shoot me with the candle holders that you see, because I think that's a sport or an art around there. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I don't have anything. Happy birthday, Les. Many more. Thank you all for staying, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
And I was also going to say happy birthday, Les, who is also in charge of our COP program. So anybody who wants to go volunteer should go talk to him, too. And I don't really have anything else except happy 4th of July and be safe. Appointments. I'm going to come back to my Dania Beach Housing Authority appointment last. Green Advisory Board, Commissioner Brandamari, do you have somebody?
Yeah, I'm very proud of this one. I just read the whole thing. It's a young marine scientist. The name is Alexandra Hiley. And thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Joe.
Thinking of Joe with the streaming of the voice on thing there. I can't get over that yet. Thank you, and I'll give this back to you.
You can keep it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And that's it.
Parks and Recreation, I'm going to appoint Joyce Davis, and I'll get you her address. She was here earlier, but she had to leave. let me start with those. Can we move to?
Make a motion to approve the Green Advisory Board and Parks and Rec appointments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Dania Beach Housing Authority, I'm going to nominate, or I'm going to appoint Derek Hankerson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Can we call the roll?
Commissioner Brandimart,
No.
Commissioner Harris. Yes. Commissioner James.
No.
Vice Mayor Odman.
No.
Mayor Lynn.
Yes.
Motion fails 2-3.
Okay. I'm just going to remind everybody that
Can I ask
these
a
are.
question on that,
I'm-
Mayor?
I have more people.
Yeah, but I
so-
want to do it on your thing there. I never knew, maybe so, I thought that our mayor had a right to just appoint that person without it coming to a vote. Am I wrong on that? Because if so, then these 7 years didn't teach me too much.
Mr. Hansbrough?
I'm wrong? I thought that she.
No, we have a right, the mayor appoints the person, it's a
I wanna ask the
ratification.
Attorney, all right? City attorney, I thought all these years that we all have a right to appoint our own people. Does that change when it comes to the housing authority?
The Housing Authority is created by state law. The state law has said for many years, remains, and that states, the mayor of each city that has a housing authority shall make the appointment of all the board members, subject to the ratification of the commission.
So that's the reason why we vote on this.
That's correct.
I was just-
So she needs 3 votes to make an appointment, for at least, from the commission.
And generally, it is something that is ratified. Yes, it's generally given deference, so it's not usually an issue, but apparently we're having an issue on this commission. So I'm going to suggest another person. I have another person I will appoint. I would like to appoint Al Jones. Former commissioner, is very familiar with the issues. Do I have anybody seconding it? Okay. Next person that I have on my list is Celeste Oatman.
I don't know, it's fine with me.
She's Marita's daughter.
I love Marita Mitchell.
Okay, I was going to ask if she lived in the area.
Love Marita Mitchell.
She does.
She's great.
Yeah.
I was on the
Do I
board
have a
with
second?
Marita for years.
Do I have a second?
You have a second from me.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner James.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman,
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn.
Yes.
And she's great
Motion carries
on that
5-0.
board.
Thank you.
She will be great on that.
Administrative report, City Manager?
Yes, real quick. I agree with what Commissioner James said. We actually went and visited the city of Hollywood. And to get through that security, you have to submit a driver's license. They scan it, and it's a whole process. They really are doing it right over there. We're going to be ensuring that we do have that panic button there for Ken. And what basically Ken will just be doing is just, letting us know who's visiting what department, no names or anything, just basically like a checklist, which is something that the vice mayor recommended. I need you guys to please look at your calendars. Our labor attorney has given us 3 dates for collective bargaining meeting, and that's Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the 9th, 10th, or 11th of July.
I ain't got nothing in July for me.
So he's given us 3 dates, and I just wanted to see if by any chance either one of those 3 dates works for you guys.
Can we make the,
Everyone isn't going to be here. I think Commissioner Brandimart is traveling.
I leave the 1st to the 20th to go to Europe, so I can't be here.
That's important.
Yeah, no, that's important. We need all you guys there. I'll go back to the drawing board. Maybe we could do something on the 30th, since everybody's back.
We
Maybe
just picked these 3 meetings, so we'll all be here on the 30th, once we changed that Phil requested.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the labor attorney and see if we get on his schedule for the 30th, and I'll circle back with you guys. Speaking of RFPs, I wanted to thank the vice mayor. She reminded me of a directive that came forward from you guys in January So by the July meeting, we'll be bringing the RFP to really augment and enhance our social media, and augment the citizen engagement, web development, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at a Parks Master Plan presentation in the July meeting, which now will switch over to the July 30th meeting. So I'll be sending out some invites for you to see if I can have some one-on-one time with you in regards to that. So I have a couple of dates that our finance director has given me for our first budget workshop. So we're looking at September the 4th, 5th, or 6th. That is Wednesday, Thursday, or August 28th or 29th, and that is Wednesday, Thursday as well.
And these are all 501?
No, these are regular budget hearings.
Regular, okay.
Whatever, yeah, it could be at 7 p.m. It's just basically to get on your schedules.
You said the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th of September?
Yes, ma'am. 4th, 5th, or 6th of
That's Wednesday,
September.
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
You have the 6th?
All those days are fine with me. Yeah.
You prefer the August or September? We only need one date.
When's Labor Day? Labor Day.
Labor Day is
Weekend.
the 2nd.
Second.
So that's why I'm not recommending the 3rd, because it's like right after Labor Day. So either the 4th or 5th or 6th.
What were
in
the August dates? What were the August dates? I didn't hear that.
The August dates are the 28th or the 29th, which is a Wednesday or a Thursday.
I'm good both of those. And I'm good the other 3 dates in September.
I'm okay with August, but I'm not coming here when it's the first day of the seniors are back.
Okay, so do we have consensus for either the 28th or the 29th of August, which would be Wednesday or Thursday?
Sure.
Whatever's fine.
I'm fine.
Okay, so perfect. Thank you so much. We're going to be shooting for Wednesday, the 28th.
Can we
set a time?
Wednesday 28th, okay.
Yes. We would need to set a time so we can advertise.
It could be any time during, well, yeah, you have to advertise through him. So it could be any time, day or night.
We do it in the morning usually.
We've done it both ways. We've done it during the day. We've done it in the evening. It really doesn't.
I would like to do it during the daytime because I have to get my son from
It really depends on how long you think you'll,
If
be
we
there
could just do it
discussing.
After
Would you do it like a
9:45 or after.
Is this something that we're going to need resident input? Because you have people that work during the day that would like to be here, I'm sure. I'm just wondering.
It's up to you. You have 2 hearings, and those hearings are going to be in the evening. You could have your commission workshop during the day, like during 11 or something like that. We can provide lunch. 10?
We like 10.
10? Going what, 10? 10? Okay, so thank you so much. We're looking at August 28th, which is a Wednesday at 10 a.m. We'll have some snacks.
You all right?
Yes, perfect. That's perfect. I'm available. Snacks? Or a little breakfast or something like that.
Right.
The dates were good. That concludes my report. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Nothing to add.
City Clerk?
Your upcoming meetings, now that they've been rescheduled, Tuesday, July 30th at 5:01 p.m. is your special budget meeting, followed by a CRA board meeting at 5:30, and then that followed by a regular city commission meeting at 7 p.m. That's all.
And with that, we're adjourned.